Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, let's start the story of what if Naruto was the son of the goddess of death and the nephew of Kami God Harem. A blonde-haired boy of about 13 could be seen sitting in a classroom, staring at the wall. His blue eyes showing nothing but boredom as he listened to his teacher drone on about how important today was. His angular face was slightly childish, and the strange whisker marks on each side of his face gave him this wild look. He was dressed in a black shirt that seemed tight on his upper body. His arms were bare, and on the forearm is a tattoo of a snarling wolf. Each hand was outfitted with a black fingerless glove, with a metal plate on the back. He had on a pair of matching black pants, with a few white slashes sewn in. On his feet were black ninja sandals. Sitting to the left on his back is the handle of a katana. The katana was sitting inside of its black sheath. This boy is Hatake Naruto, formerly Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, but he had abandoned those names, both clans, and took on the name of his older brother. Naruto was a genius unlike any other, as he understood everything you threw at him, and could break down a ninjutsu, taijutsu or genjutsu move after just seeing it once. This made him an excellent student, but because he rarely talked he was looked as the mysterious, dark, brooding boy and had tons of fangirls. It didn't help that his older brother was the legendary Hatake Kakashi, and he had been learning from Kakashi from the time he was 5. He was also the only male to ever learn from the legendary Senju Tsunade. The boy's chakra control was flawless, and he could heal most wounds and could if he tried extract poisons. Sitting on either side of the boy was a dreaded fangirl. Iruka smiling said, "Okay, time for the written exam. Mizuki will be passing them out." Mizuki, passing the exams out, sneered when he handed Naruto his exam. Naruto, glancing at the exam once, rolled his eyes, spotting the Anbu entrance exam. Shaking his head, he decided to just do the test, since he already knew all of the answers, as it was his goal to become the second youngest Anbu captain after Uchiha Itachi, and surpass his big brother. Finishing the exam, he moved his eyes to the window and started to look out of it. He smiled at how peaceful the village seemed, with the Anbu hidden in the shadows working hard to keep it that way. He blinked when he heard his name be called. Turning, he blinked, wondering when they had moved to the taijutsu part of the genin exams. He, walking into the ring, bowed to Mizuki, and then proceeded to get in a ready stance. Mizuki, pretending to not hate Naruto's very existence, did a bow back and then rushed the boy. Naruto, seeing this coming, started to effortlessly dodge all of the teacher's attacks, causing the fangirls to drool. He, grabbing Mizuki's left hand, tossed the man over his shoulder, and using a little of his natural speed landed over 20 light jabs to the man's stomach. Naruto, appearing at the edge of the arena, looked at Iruka and said, "It's over." Iruka gained wide eyes when Mizuki hit the ground and a little foam came out of his mouth. He, rushing over to his partner, could checked up on him. He winced, finding several bruises on the man's body. He, turning to look at Naruto, could only shake his, spotting the boy now leaning against a tree, not paying attention to the world around him. With good reason, as his fangirls were all around the boy, swooning. He, shaking his head, called out after a 5-minute break, "The next person up is Namikaze Uzumaki Suki." Everyone nodded, and his eyes set on said girl, who staring at Naruto with a look of longing. This made Iruka sigh because the Namikaze family had been trying to get Naruto back into their family ever since he became an Hatake, but both Kakashi and Naruto refused. Hell, Naruto wouldn't even acknowledge the Namikaze family, and would ignore most of the village for that point. The strange thing was that nobody knew where Naruto got his katana from, not even Kakashi knew. All Kakashi knew was that whenever asked about the blade, Naruto would touch the hilt, smile, and say, "I can't tell you or anyone until a certain event happens." He, sighing, turned to his other top student, and sighed even deeper. It was Uchiha Setsuna, one of the 3 remaining Uchiha alive. One was Uchiha Mikoto and the other was Uchiha Itachi, who had slaughtered most of his clan for reasons unknown. Setsuna had many fanboys, but like Naruto, she ignored her fans. She was friends with most of the kunoichi, and best friends with Suki. It was obvious though that Setsuna had either a crush on Naruto or was head over heels in love with him. That's why she trained so hard to catch his eye, and prove to him that she wasn't like the useless fangirls. Naruto, having climbed into the nearest tree, reached into his pouch. He pulled out his notebook, the one that was used for lyrics only. He flipping past several songs, landed on an empty page. Closing his eyes, he pulsed his chakra through the village. Finding what he was looking for, he smiled. The thing or person he had been looking for was right now in the Hokage Tower along with many others. This person was standing beside the window trying to get the smell of smoke off of her. This woman had long flowing wild black hair that looked as soft as snow. Her eyes were this exotic shade of red that captivated you and made you blush no matter what. Her skin was pale, but held this supernatural beauty, though she was but human. Around each eye was a light appliance of light purple eye shadow. She had a light appliance of pink blush on her faces. She was dressed in a red and white dress, the white looking like bandages. On her forehead shining proudly was the Konoha headband. She had the perfect frame, and was simply gorgeous to him. This woman is Yuhi Kurenai, Genjutsu mistress of Konoha, and one of the 4 ice queens. She was also the woman who Naruto had a heavy crush on according to Kakashi. He closing his eyes started to write down in his notebook. 5 minutes later he was still writing in said notebook as the matches continued. He looking up from his notebook minutes later blinked finding himself back in his seat inside of the building. Shrugging he went back to writing his new song, knowing that Kakashi and many others were watching and that his brother would be expecting to read the song later. He hearing his name called, got up still writing in his notebook, entered the exam room, and without stopping did all 4 of the jutsu required to pass. Iruka with a shocked look on his face asked, "Is there any other jutsu you would like to show?" Naruto nodding motioned for the 2 examiners to follow him, leading the 2 outside along with the class. Naruto put his notebook in his pocket. Lifting his hand into the air, he closed his eyes and started focusing his chakra, feeling it flowing around him. He then smiling said, "I know that you're watching Kakashi and I. This is my response to your challenge. Behold my ultimate jutsu, of both the offensive and defensive nature." He then pushing his chakra into the very air opened his closed hand and said, "Burst and scatter in the wind. Become thy ultimate shield. Rend and reap with 1,000 blades of blossoming cherries. Prepare thy ultimate sword. Explode Senbon Sakura." When he said this everyone gasped as the very air around him became a bright pink, like the color of a certain fangirl's hair. Naruto swirling the mass around him, started spinning as the mass started to lift him up. He then directing the mass at a tree, smiled when a small amount of the mass broke off and launched at the tree. Everyone gained wide eyes when the tree started gaining deep gashes where the mass hit at. Seconds later the tree fell over. Naruto then creating 2 shadow clones had them throw shuriken and kunai at him. Everyone gasped when the mass either deflected the kunai/shuriken or turned it into scrap metal. Naruto then lifting up both of his hands revealing what the mass was, and again everyone gasped. Floating around him was 1,000 tiny sakura petals. Naruto smiling let the jutsu drop, and pulled back out his notebook ignoring how the no longer deadly sakura petals fell around him gently, and a warm breeze blew through the village. Sadly for him the fangirls did not ignore this, as they gained hearts in their eyes and one certain pink-haired fangirl screeched out, "Oh, my Kami Naruto-kun created a jutsu that had my name in it. Take that, Ino pig." Ino hearing this went bright red as she screamed, "Naruto Kun doesn't like you forehead, he loves me. In fact, he's probably going to name an even more powerful jutsu after me." At this statement both girls started to fight along with the other fangirls. Everyone including Naruto's sweat dropped at this. Naruto shaking his head walked over to Iruka and asked, "May I please have my headband so that I can get away from these crazy and troublesome fangirls?" Everyone hearing this sweat dropped at him using the word troublesome. Iruka handing him a headband said, "Congratulations, Naruto. Be here tomorrow for team placements." Naruto nodding turned to Shikamaru and asked care for and ride Mini Yoshino. Shikamaru rolling her eyes mumbled, "Troublesome cute blondes." She then walked over to him and grabbed his arm. Naruto I smiling at Chuji held up the peace sign and said, "Ja na." He then vanished in a flash of lightning. Iruka spotting this could only think nose in a book, vanishing in a shushin, powerful jutsu, talent beyond measure, legions of fangirls. Damn, all he needs is a crazy rival, a lazy attitude, and to start reading porn and Naruto's a clone of Kakashi. He then shivered at the thought. Naruto, after dropping off Shikamaru at her home and dodging the frying pan from Yoshino, for kissing Shika on the cheek before saying goodbye for now, Mini Yoshino teleported to his room in the Hataki household. Kicking off his shoes, taking off his shirt, and pulling out his notebook with jutsu ideals on it, he flopped down on his comfy bed and started reading through his jutsu. He then blinked, feeling Mizuki heading towards the outskirts of the village. He, closing his eyes, sighed as he could feel Suki's chakra signature along with Irika's chakra signature in the direction that Mizuki was heading. He, putting his book down, stood to his feet and slipped his shoes back on. Strapping his sword back on his back, he put his headband on and said, "I guess it's time for you to claim me as your child now." He then, putting black bandages on his hands, turned to the widow and said, "Good, because I was really starting to think that you were never going to claim me and that all of this was one big dirty trick." He then vanished in a burst of pure speed. At the outskirts of town, Suki was shaking in fear as tears trailed down her face. The reason why? Well, she had just been told something she didn't know by Mizuki, something she was sure her family knew about. Mizuki, spotting the trembling girl, sneered and said, "Oh look, the little demon didn't even know. That's right, cry like the weak little demon you are." Irika, who had taken a giant shuriken to his back, was trying to tell Suki to run and that Mizuki was trying to get her to let her guard down, looked at the girl's purple eyes and felt his heart break, spotting the deep hurting in the girl's eyes. Mizuki, smirking, thinking that this was over, tossed his other shuriken at Suki. It looked like the weapon was going to hit, until the shuriken was deflected and sent into the trunk of a tree. What had deflected the shuriken was none other than the hilt of Naruto's sword. Naruto, staring at Mizuki with burning rage in his eyes, said, "I always knew you were trouble. I should have killed your treacherous when I had the chance earlier. But I let you live, and now I find you here revealing S-class secrets and hurting not one but two of the people I actually give a damn about in this village." Naruto, standing to his full height, said, "I hope you're at peace with yourself and have no regrets, because tonight you die." Mizuki, laughing, said, "Well, look if it isn't the other demon. The boy with the other half of the Kyuubi inside of him, who couldn't even use chakra until he turned 5. Naruto, hearing this, let his hair overshadow his face. Mizuki, spotting this, asked, "Oh, what's the matter, demon? Did I hurt your feelings? Are you going to cry? Do you need for me to get your mom? Oh wait, you're a demon and demons don't have mothers." Naruto then started to trembling, and Mizuki, thinking that it was fear, said, "Look, the demon's trembling. Are you afraid, demon? If you surrender now, I'll make your death quick, unlike the other demon. I plan on having some fun with her before I kill her." When he said this, the trembling stopped, and suddenly a massive intent to kill appeared and brought Mizuki to his knees. Mizuki, looking up at Naruto, felt his bladder empty. The reason why? Well, because Naruto's eyes were no longer ocean blue. No, instead they were dark red, promised a slow, brutal murder. Naruto, with a snarl on his face, said, "You dare threaten someone with rape?" Naruto's eyes, shifting up, said, "Claim me now. I wished to show this fool his mistake." The ones watching were confused until the light of the moon started to shine down on Naruto, who closed his eyes. Mizuki literally shit his pants when the image of the Shinigami appeared in front of Naruto. That image shifted into the form of a woman with long flowing silver hair and a body to die for. She, leaning forward, kissed Naruto in the middle of his forehead and said for all to hear, "I Ukami Megami, the one true goddess of death, sister of Ukami Kaion, the one true goddess of life. Herby, claim Ukami Naruto as my child." This not only makes him the heir of death, but the brother of Otsutsuki Kagaya, uncle of Otsutsuki Hagoromo, Otsutsuki Hamura, and Zetsu. Grand uncle of the tailed beast, Otsutsuki Indra, and Otsutsuki Ashura. Myself and Kami Herby declare him to be the living embodiment of truth, justice, love, and chaos. I also declare him as my sole archangel of death. I fully unlock his powers. May his enemies fear him, and his comrades worship him. She then vanished, and Naruto was surrounded in a powerful aura of energy that was not only corroding the ground underneath him, but wilting the trees around him, and darkening the very forest. They then watched as Naruto went through a change. Firstly, his hair turned oil black, and lengthened until midway his back. His skin went from tan to a dark ebony brown. His shirt and jacket corroded away, revealing his muscled upper body. His stomach then split open and a pitch black abyssal tear appeared. On his right hand a mouth full of sharp teeth appeared and licked its lips. On the back of said hand a slitted blood-red eye appeared and glanced around. From his back large skeletal wings appeared coated in his own blood. Said wings then lit aflame with ethereal bluish-white flames. His pants transformed into the bottom half of kimono pants, that were black in nature. Then his eyes changed into two purple slitted ringed eyes. The eyes then transformed even more when 9 black tomo appeared. The final thing that happened was 2 thick silver horns to appear on his head, coming from his skull. This transformation made Naruto look like something not even Kyuubi would want to fight. Naruto's eyes landing on the terrified Mizuki narrowed. He then spoke, and his voice sent a wave of fear into the men, and made most women shiver in lust. He said, "Foolish Nigen. Behold my true form. I am truth." His voice was like a whisper, yet was so strong. It also had this echo, that sounded like the words of a hollow body. Naruto pointing the hand with the mouth, and Mizuki said, "Your truth is that Orochimaru of the Sannin lured you into his clutches with false promises of power. This led you to raping and killing many people, including your own sister and your 2 teammates." Mizuki was now trying to stand to his feet, but for some reason he couldn't move a muscle. Naruto continued with, "You lusted after Mitarashi Enko, Yuhi Kurenai, Inuzuka Hana, Yuzuki Uego, Nara Yoshino, Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina, Ichiraku Ayam, Uchiha Mikoto, and nearly succeeded in raping and killing of Hyuga Hitomi. If I hadn't found her and escorted her back home." Naruto then vanished and appeared directly in front of Mizuki with an angry glare in his eyes. He leaning forward said, "I am rewriting your truth. Tonight I purge the world of your presence and consume your soul. Tonight the many souls of the innocent rest in peace. Tonight your poor sister and your teammates gain their vengeance and finally move on to the afterlife to be welcomed into the open arms of my aunt. Tonight your world dies." Before Mizuki could even scream, the tear on Naruto's stomach opened up and everyone gasped or turned green, when billions of bloody hands came from the stomach and latched onto Mizuki, who started to scream, beg, plead for forgiveness and for the agony to end. The screams didn't stop even when most of Mizuki's body had been consumed/dragged into the abyss. With a large hand on his head he screamed out, "Orochimaru-sama." His voice and existence was then snuffed out by Naruto. Said being turning his eyes to Iruka snapped his fingers and Iruka was completely healed. He turning to Suki, who was terrified, shifted into a more normal form. This meant he lost his wings, the horns, the abyss on his stomach, the eye, and the mouth on his stomach. His eyes also shifted back to the ocean blue he was known for. Walking over to Suki with soft eyes, he picked her up bridal style and said, "Don't you worry, Suki-chan. I have seen your truth. You are meant for great things. You are one of the children who is slated to bring peace to the elemental nations. I see you taking on S-rank shinobi. I have seen you losing your sensei. I have seen you finishing the Rasengan. I have seen you summoning the toads. I have seen you rescuing princesses and entire countries." He smiling down at the now peacefully sleeping Suki said, "You won't ever have to worry about a thing, because if your mother and father cannot protect you, I'll be there. I'll be the light when all you see is dark. I'll be the silver lining in the dark clouds. I'll even be your training partner. I'll always have your back, and will always be there for you, silly little moon." He then, shaking his hair, started his walk back to the village with Iruka floating behind him, along with the forbidden scroll of sealing. Review or be forced to dance in a candle in front of Frieza, Orochimaru, and Hanzo. Naruto, walking through the village with Suki in his arms, could feel the Umbu all around him, following his every movement. He, looking over his shoulder, could see the slumbering Iruka with the forbidden scroll floating in front of the man. He then turned forward and continued his trek to the Hokage Tower, already ready to give his report and explain everything. He was also ready for the intense training session Kakashi was going to give him once all of this was over, because his brother was not going to let him run around with these powers without having complete control over them. This made him shiver, as Kakashi's training sessions were brutal, and if Anko got involved, he shivered even more and could only thank Kami for his near-infinite regeneration and healing ability, not to mention his half of Kurama always ready to heal his grand uncle. Arriving at the Hokage Tower, he decided to skip the stairs and let out his wings. Gently flying up to the open window, he floated in, with Suki snuggling into his arms. He looking around the room could see that Minato, Kushina, Kakashi, Anko, and a few others were there. He shaking his head sat Irika down in the corner, and set the forbidden scroll down on the Hokage's desk. He then sitting Suki down on the couch, sat down beside her, letting her head rest in his lap. Once she was comfy and drooling in his lap, he looked Minato dead in the eyes and asked, "How much did you see and hear?" Kakashi was the one who answered, "All of it. We even witnessed your outstanding performance during the exams." Anko with a scowl on her face said, "Now you'd better start explaining now, brat. Or so help me Kami, our last training session will look like a warm-up compared to the next one." Naruto actually blanched hearing this, as the last training session left him with a black eye, a busted lip, a few bruised ribs, and a numb right leg. Shaking his head, he said, "Alright, I'll explain, but please no interruptions until I finish, okay?" Everyone nodded. Naruto sighing said, "It all began when I was 4. I was being watched by Mikoto-chan." Flashback jutsu. 4-year-old Naruto was watching as Setsuna tugged on Mikoto's dress trying to get her attention, when his ears pick up the sound of someone whispering. He turning his head couldn't find the source of the whispers and it was starting to freak him out. He shaking his head blinked, spotting Mikoto tending to Setsuna, who was now all smiles at being paid attention to. He then felt someone ruffle his hair. Looking up he blinked, spotting a smiling Itachi. Naruto smiling himself said, "Hello Itachi," and I. Itachi still with his smile said, "Hello there little Naruto. Having fun?" Naruto shrugging his shoulders said, "Sure, but Setsuna has been throwing a fit all day at the fact that Fugaku-san will not be attending her birthday party. Honestly, I don't see what's the big deal." Itachi blinking asked, "About birthday parties or father attending said party?" Naruto said, "Both, as a birthday party for kids is nothing but an excuse for adults to gather, socialize, drink, and do stupid things. As for Fugaku, he's nothing but an arrogant fool who believes himself to be better than everyone else and is possibly the next Uchiha Madara, except with a lot less talent." Itachi hearing this could only sweat drop as he said, "Naruto-kun, it terrifies me how intelligent you are for a 4-year-old. Your analytic mind is quite frankly better than Shikaku-sama's." Naruto shrugging said, "I'm 4 and cannot access chakra, so of course I'm smart because I have nothing else to do beside pay attention to my surroundings and analyze things." He turning to look at Setsuna, who was giggling at her mother's antics, said, "By the way, Mikoto-chan is trying to hide the fact that Fugaku-san is being unfaithful to her with some random civilian woman, and instead of castrating him with a rusty fork, she's being strong for both you and Setsuna. It's quite foolish to me, but I'm for so." Itachi's eyes were wide as plates hearing this, and looking at his shocked mother could see that she was in a similar state. Itachi shaking his head asked, "Just how do you know this?" Naruto sighing said, "Fugaku isn't very tactical, and I've seen him walk into many public places with said woman only to walk out with his pants on backwards afterwards. Putting it together was rather easy, especially with Jiraiya trying to get me to help him with his stupid peeping. Add in the fact that father keeps one of those orange books in his desk at home, and I'd have to be an idiot not to figure it out." Itachi was now face-palming at the fact that Jiraiya was trying to use a 4-year-old to help him peep on women. Naruto yawning said, "Well then I do believe it's time for me to take a nap. I'll be on my way. Tell Setsuna it was nice playing with her today." Flashback end. Naruto ignoring the growing killing intent from Kushina and the terrified look in Minato's eyes said, "A year later I was walking around the abandoned part of the civilian district, when once again my ears heard the whispers, this time though they were stronger. So I followed the sound of the whispers and came across a strange sight. A woman was collecting what looked the soul of a little orphan girl. I walking over to her asked her what she was doing when." Flashback Jutsu 2. 5-year-old Naruto standing in front of the shocked woman asked, "You can see me?" Naruto tilting his head asked, "Why wouldn't I be able to see you?" She shaking her head said, "This can't be. There must be someone behind me, because no mortal is supposed to be able to see me." Naruto with a confused look on his face asked, "Are you okay, lady?" She staring him in the eyes said, "He can really see me." Naruto then said, "Okay lady, you must be either crazy or extremely lonely." She then walking in front of Naruto reached out to touch his face, and said, "If I can touch him that means that he must be dead." Naruto tilting his head again, grabbed the woman's hand and said, "Lady, I ain't dead." This shocked her again as she stared at his hand grabbing onto hers. She, moving her other hand to his, started to touch it and feel it, making Naruto try to stop from giggling. She, looking up at him, asked, "What is your name, young one?" Naruto, giggling, said, "Naruto." She, hearing his name, gained wide eyes and said, "You're one of the twins I sealed the QB into." That explains some of this, but not all of it. Naruto, hearing this, blinked, and his brain pieced everything together. He, with wide eyes, asked, "In the name of God, you're the Shinigami?" She, giggling, said, "Not just the Shinigami, but the true goddess of death. My name is Ukami Megami, and most mortals aren't supposed to see me unless they are dead or close to dying." Naruto, hearing this, blinked and said, "Last time I checked I was just fine and not even close to passing on." She, nodding, said, "I can tell, but this means something very good for me and possibly even better for you." Naruto, blinking, asked, "What good thing?" She, smiling, asked, "Do you like your family, and do they treat you any different?" Naruto, blinking, said, "Not really. My parents pay more attention to Suki because she can use her chakra and I can't. I love Suki though." She, smiling at this, asked, "Do you find yourself figuring out things others would never even dream about? Have you ever ended a sentence with the words, 'That is the truth'?" Naruto, blinking, said, "I have." She, smiling even more, asked, "Do you hear whispers, but often find nothing there? Do you find it easy to blend into the crowd, and to help others who seek to find the truth?" Naruto, now really freaked out, asked, "How do you know all of this?" She, with a really bright smile on her face, asked, "Would you like to understand the reason why all of this is? Would you like the ability to use chakra at will? Would you like a mother who loves you with all of her heart?" Naruto, now curious, asked, "Of course, but how would these things happen?" Megami, smirking, pulled out her sword and handed it to him. She, kissing him on his forehead, said, "Take this sword. Her name is Shinen no Boken, Abyssal Tyrant. Keep her with you at all times, and when someone betrays the village by telling little Suki of her burden, draw her." Naruto, blinking, asked, "Why?" She, giggling, said, "Because at this time I will claim you as not only my child, but my champion. I am unlocking all of your chakra pathways, and increasing your already outstanding intelligence. By the time you're 13, you'll already be smarter than most mortals. My sister has boosted your senses and made your eyes exactly like the Uchiha Sharingan without the whole curse of hatred thing and no transformation or chakra drain." He was about to ask why when she said, "You cannot tell anyone of this until I claim you. Until then, grow stronger, Naruto, and know that even when you feel alone, the Ukami will watch over you." She then vanished. Naruto, shrugging, put the sword on his back and went back to what he was doing. Flashback to end. Naruto, ignoring the shell-shocked looks on the people's faces, said, "A year later I became Hatake Naruto, and started my intense training regime with Kakashi Nii and Anko-chan. I stuck to my guns and set up a goal for myself." He, turning to Kakashi with a fire in his eyes, said, "Now that I've been claimed, that impossible goal is not so far out of my reach. I will become the second youngest Umbu captain, with Itachi being the first. I will also surpass all that have come before me." He then, looking down at the stirring Suki, smiled and said, "I will also protect my silly little moon from all dangers, including that masked freak behind Kurama's attack 13 years ago." He then, without even looking up, said, "By the way, Minato, are you ever going to inform the village that your deadline is nearly up and Mom will be coming to claim your soul soon? Oh, and that man was not Uchiha Madara, as I've talked to the ghost of said man, and he's pretty pissed that someone's slandering his bad name." All eyes turned to Minato, who sighed and asked, "How did you know?" Naruto, rolling his eyes, said, "What part of the fact that I'm truth don't you understand? I see the truth no matter how many lies hide it. Like, for instance, Suki-chan has a crush on two people, one being a certain ramen waitress, the other being myself." He then, looking Minato in the eyes, said, "Add in the fact that Mom is allowing me to let you join Madara, Izuna, Tobirama, and Hashirama inside of my sword when you pass on, so that you can still be a part of Suki's life." Naruto, turning to Kakashi, smiled and said, "By the way, Kakashi and you had better go get your wallet because you and I both know I won the bet, and you have to buy dinner tonight." He, turning to Anko, smirked and said, "You're invited to come along, Anko-chan." Anko, giggling at the pale Kakashi, said, "Such a gentleman? I'd be delighted to have dinner with you and Kakashi tonight." Kakashi, hearing this, stated to weep for his wallet. It was at this moment that Suki woke up. She, sitting up and rubbing her eyes, was about to ask what had happened, when memories came flooding back to her. She, gaining tears in her eyes, was about to start crying again when she heard a voice she hadn't heard in years say, "Stop your crying, my silly little moon." Her eyes turning to the gently smiling Naruto, latched onto him and started to sob loudly into his chest. Naruto, smiling, wrapped his arms around her and started to rub gentle circles into her back. He, putting his chin on her head, said, "You are not a demon, Suki. In fact, if anyone is a demon, it would be Mizuki team. You are the little moon of the Namikaze family and the future first female Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves, I think." Suki, hearing this, looked up at him with her bloodshot purple eyes and asked, "How can you be so sure, Naruto?" Naruto, doing a very Kakashi-like eye smile, said, "Because I believe in you, and most demons wouldn't give two shits about what a traitor said to them. Hell, Kurama doesn't give one flaming flying shit about what Mizuki said. In fact, he's kinda pissed that the team threatened his vessel with rape. My half of Kurama is taking great pleasure in torturing the soul of the man." Suki, hearing this, smiled as the person she loved the most believed in her. She then, turning to look around the room, asked Kushina, "Why didn't you two tell me about this?" Kushina, scratching the back of her head, said, "We thought you already knew." At this statement, Naruto face palmed, Kakashi's sweat dropped, and Enko started to snicker very loudly. Naruto, shaking his head, said, "You know what, I'm not even going to comment." He, turning to Kakashi, said, "Alright Kakashi, let's go the Ichiraku ramen? It's ramen time." Enko, cheering, said, "Yeah, it's dango time." Kakashi was about to say something when Suki asked, "Can I come, Naruto-kun?" Naruto, I, smiling at her, said, "Sure, the more the merrier." Suki cheered at this, and Kakashi was now openly weeping as his wallet was never going to be the same again. He blanched when Kushina said, "Let's make this a celebration then. I'm going to bring Mikoto-chan, Setsuna-chan, and Yuego-chan." Enko, smiling, said, "I'll go get Kurenai, Hana, Tsum, Yoshino, and Shikamaru." Suki, with stars in her eyes, said, "I'll invite Ino-chan, Sakura-chan, and Hinata-chan. Oh, and Ten-Ten-chan." It was Naruto's turn to blanch hearing this. He, slowly moving towards Kakashi, said, "Now let's not get carried away. No need to bring so many people." Kakashi, now with an evil smirk on his face, asked, "What's wrong, Naruto? Afraid of a few fangirls?" Naruto, turning to Kakashi with a glare in his eyes, said, "Two of those girls are some of the worst fangirls I have ever come across. Hinata is my bloody stalker. Setsuna is head over heels in love with me, but is extremely socially awkward when it comes to me. Yoshino is gonna beat me with a frying pan for trying to seduce Shikamaru. Said girl is gonna want to lean on me as she always does. Hana is trying to seduce me. Tsum-chan isn't that bad. Kurenai is the person you claim I have a heavy crush on. Mikoto-chan has been trying to push me together with Setsuna since we were 3. Yuego is just fine, and Ten-Ten is going to pin me to the wall with a bag of kunai for making green nut 1 and 2 have a youthful fit the other day." Kakashi, hearing this, blinked and said that would explain why she nearly impaled me with a spear the other day. She's really pissed off about that. Naruto, deadpanning at Kakashi, asked, "Can you really blame her?" Everyone in the room, including the hidden Umbu, all agreed with his statement and laughed. The next day, Naruto was sitting in his seat in the academy beside Shikamaru, who was once again leaning against him catching some sleep. She didn't know it, but she was Naruto's shield from the rabid fangirls this morning, and he was really praying to his aunt that she was on his team, because he really liked spending time with her, even though he teased her by calling her Mini Yoshino. Sitting beside her was Chuji, his other bodyguard against the crazy fangirls. Speaking of fangirls, here comes Ino and Sakura, two of his most troublesome fangirls. Sakura, spotting Chuji, screeched out, "Move it, fatso, so I can get that lazy whore off of my Naruto-kun," and sit beside him. Naruto smirked, already knowing what was about to happen, because calling any Akamichi fat was asking for a slow, painful death or heavy beating. This was doubled if you talked about Shikamaru around Chuji, who saw the lazy girl as a sister figure. Seconds later, Sakura was smacked through the wall by a giant fist. Chuji, with flames in his eyes, turned to Ino, who was pale and trembling, and asked, "Are you going to be foolish also?" Ino quickly shook her head negative and found a seat near Kiba, who was snickering at what happened to his least favorite girl in the room. Naruto was about to laugh when he felt eyes on him. Turning his head slightly, he locked eyes with Setsuna, who blushed and looked away. Shaking his head, he blinked when the door slid open and in walked Suki with her headband shining proudly on her forehead. Smiling, he was about to say something when the pink-haired banshee screeched, "Suki Baka, what are you doing here? It's only for people who passed, you failed." Naruto blinked, wondering if the girl was immune to pain or something. Shaking his head, he said, "Actually, Haruno, Suki-chan did indeed pass. She passed with top scores in all fields, much like Setsuna-chan and Shikamaru-chan. The dead Mizuki was discovered to be messing with her scores." He then, smiling at Suki, said, "There's a seat on the other side of me for you, Suki-chan, if you want it." Suki, smiling, said, "Thank you, Naruto-kun." She then skipped up to the seat and sat beside Naruto, secretly basking in the fact that Naruto had defended her from the banshee. Sakura, on the other hand, was fuming, as not only had the lazy whore gotten the first seat beside Naruto, but now the baka was sitting beside her, Naruto. Iruka then walked in with a smile on his face. He then, doing a boring speech that he noticed everyone except for Naruto, Suki, Setsuna and Shikamaru was paying close attention to. He, smiling, said, "Alright, let's get to the teams. Team 1. Naruto was already tuning the man out, but really tuned him out then. He was tempted to take out his lyrical notebook, but stopped himself when he heard Iruka say Team 7 is Inuzuka Kiba, Haruno Sakura and Uchiha Setsuna. Your sensei is Hatake Kakashi." Naruto instantly felt bad for Setsuna and Kiba, as Sakura was going to screeching at the fact that she wasn't on his team. Sure enough, Sakura screeched, "Iruka-sensei, why am I on a team with Dog Breath and Setsuna-san? I should be with my Naruto-kun." Iruka explained why and then said Team 8 is Nara Shikamaru, Yamanaka Ino and Ukami Hatake Naruto. Your senseis are Yuhi Kurinai, Yuzuki Iwego and Mitarashi Anko. Naruto, hearing this, felt his blood run cold, as if Anko was one of his senseis. Then he was not going to be walking home tonight, or for a long time at that. He ignored how Ino started cheering at the fact that she was on his team, and when Shikamaru mumbled troublesome in her sleep. Iruka then informed everyone that Team 9 was still together, and said Team 10 is Hyuga Hinata, Akamichi Chuji, Namikaze Uzumaki Suki and Abirame Shino. Your sensei is Saratobi Asuma. Suki, hearing this, smiled, as she was on a team with friends. Hinata was happy she was on a team with Suki, Shino and Chuji, but was sad she wasn't on Naruto's team. Chuji didn't really care. Shino simply pushed up his shades. Iruka, smiling at the future shinobi, told them their sensei was going to pick them up after lunch. Naruto, hearing this, poked Shikamaru in the side and said, "Mini Yoshino, wake up, it's time to get lunch." Shikamaru, waking up, moved away from Naruto, stretched and said, "Stop calling me that, you troublesome boy." Naruto, laughing, said, "But you look so cute from the blush you get on your face when I call you that." Shikamaru, hearing this, blushed deeply and mumbled out, "Troublesome flirtatious Hatakes." Naruto, laughing, took Shikamaru's hand and asked, "Where do you want to go for lunch, Shika-chan?" Shikamaru, blushing as Naruto was holding her hand, said, "It doesn't matter." Naruto, laughing, then asked, "How about we go back to my house and I cook us lunch?" Shikamaru, blushing even more, said, "Sure." Naruto, smiling, wrapped her in his arms and vanished in a flurry of leaves. The both of them ignored the many jealous glares sent at her by the females still in the room. And Chuji. Why was Chuji jealous? Well, Naruto was an excellent chef that made food capable of calming the many ferocious beasts in the forest of death. Suki was only slightly jealous of Shikamaru, who was one of her more calm friends. Hinata was completely furious at how close Shikamaru was to her obsession. Sakura was seeing red at the fact that Naruto and Shikamaru were going to be alone in his home doing Kami knows what. Ino was in the same state as Sakura. Naruto, appearing at the Hatake manor with Shikamaru, let go of the red girl and walked into the kitchen. Shikamaru, shaking her blush away, followed Naruto into the kitchen. She, sitting down on a stool, watched as Naruto masterfully cooked the two of them lunch. Shikamaru wouldn't admit this to no one except her mother, but she was 100% sure she was in love with Naruto and wanted to someday marry him. Naruto, sensing her eyes on him, smirked and asked, "Mini Yoshino, how about the team meeting we go out for a date? Just you and me?" Shikamaru blinked, blushed, and then stuttered out, "Are you really asking me out on a date, or are you just teasing me again?" Naruto, turning to her with a smile on his face, said, "I'm really asking you out, Shika-chan?" Shikamaru, feeling her entire face turn red, looked to the left and said, "Sure, Naruto, just no ramen." Naruto, smiling, said, "Great." He then, putting a plate of lunch in front of her, said, "Eat up, love." Shikamaru, taking the plate, happily ate the lunch while at the same time planning out the date for this afternoon. Naruto himself was listening to Kurama laugh, as they both knew that he was only going on this date so Anko wouldn't kill him in training today. When they finished lunch, Naruto put both plates in the sink and grabbed Shika's hand. He, smiling at her blush, teleported back to the classroom. Arriving seconds before the others were slated to arrive back, he took his usual seat and waited. Shika, laying her head on his shoulder, was soon asleep, still holding his hand. Naruto, using his ability, made a rift appear. From this rift, 2 hands covered in blood put headphones in his ears. He, with his free hand, reached into his pocket and pressed play on his gift from his aunt. It was a Samsung Galaxy Edge. He smiled when his favorite song started to play. It was Hail to the King by Avenged Sevenfold. He blinked when he found everyone back in their seats. He, looking at Suki, who looked upset. He, reaching over with his other hand, grabbed her hand. Suki, feeling someone grab her hand, blinked and turned. She gained an atomic blush finding Naruto holding her hand. Naruto, smiling at her, asked Suki-chan, "I'm taking Shika-chan out on a date tonight. Tomorrow, how about we go out on a date?" Suki, turning bright red, nodded and said, "Okay, Naruto-kun." Naruto smiled at this and ignored Kurama talking about him being crazy for going out with his former sister. Soon enough, the sensei started to show up, and Naruto was wondering how he got himself into the mess he was in. On one shoulder he had Shikamaru sleeping, but somehow still holding his hand. On the other side he had Suki was drooling on his shoulder, as she had decided to see why Shikamaru leaned on him so much, and she was somehow still holding his hand. If he his head in any direction, he would find one of his fangirls glaring at Shikamaru and Suki. Setsuna was even slightly glaring at Shikamaru and Suki. He wasn't sure, but he had the feeling that Kakashi was somewhere beaming with pride at him. When it came for Kakashi to arrive, Naruto felt his eyes widen when he actually arrived at the right time. Naruto instantly started searching for the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Kakashi, spotting this, smiled at him and said, "I couldn't afford to miss what's about to happen to you." Naruto, hearing this, suddenly got a very bad feeling in the bottom of his stomach. He, quickly waking up both Suki and Shikamaru, braced himself for whatever was about to happen. Suddenly his instincts screamed at him to move. He, listening, blanched when a huge snake burst directly from under where he had just been sitting and swallowed the chair whole. He, turning to Kakashi with fear in his eyes, asked, "Is she trying to kill me?" Kakashi, chuckling, said, "You did kiss her last night, knowing good and well what would happen." Naruto, hearing this, said, "It was only a ing kiss. It's not like I took her to bed or anything, damn." Kakashi, laughing, said, "Yes, but that was her first kiss." Naruto, hearing this, blanched even more and said, "Oh, by the name of Kurama, you've got to be kidding me." He got his answer when the door was kicked in. Standing there with a crazy gleam in her eyes was Anko. She, looking at Naruto, said, "Teammate, follow me to training ground 23 for some intense training." Naruto started crying hearing this, knowing that he was going to be crawling his way back home tonight. Shikamaru, spotting Naruto cry, got a little scared as Naruto didn't cry. Ino was shivering in fear as she had heard stories about Anko, and right now they were starting to look true. Kakashi, laughing, said, "Have fun, Naruto?" Naruto, turning to Kakashi, asked, "This is because we emptied out your wallet, isn't it?" Kakashi, shaking his head, said, "No, it's because you burned my books." Naruto, hearing this, said, "Oh, come on. I did that when I was 7. That was 6 years ago." Kakashi, smiling, said, "Yes, and I had to buy all new copies of my books because of that." Naruto, face palming, followed the rest of his team to the training ground, already planning on how to get Kakashi back for this. Arriving at training ground 23, he sat down beside Shikamaru as Anko, Kurenai, and Yuigo waited. Anko, spotting him sit down, smiled and said, "Good, now that everyone is here, let's get to know each other." Kurenai, smiling, said, "I'll go first. My name is Yuhi Kurenai. I am a jonin of this village. I am 23 years old. The things I like are my friends, a certain person of this village, reading novels and genjutsu. Things I dislike are smoking, perverts, and people who look down on genjutsu. My hobbies are reading and gardening. My dreams for the future are to help all of you reach your dreams." Yuigo, smiling, said, "My name is Yuzuki Yuigo, and I am a jonin of this village. I am 24 years old. The things I like are my friends, a certain someone, my boyfriend hate, swords and the moon. Things I dislike are perverts, bullies, and the sickness hate has. My hobbies are practicing with my sword and stargazing. My dreams for the future are to get married one day and help you guys reach your dreams. Anko smirking said, I'm Mitarashi Anko, and I am a special jonin of the village. I am 23 years old. The things I like are Kushina sensei, my friends, Kakashi, Naruto-chan, and snakes. Things I dislike are perverts, the fact that a certain someone stole my first kiss, and my former sensei. Hobbies are training with Naruto-chan and eating dango. My dreams for the future are to kill my former sensei and help you guys reach your dreams. She then, pointing at Shikamaru, said, You go now. Shikamaru, sighing, said, Troublesome. My name is Naro Shikamaru and I'm a genin of this village. I am 13 years old and the things I like are a certain Hataki who is taking me on a date tonight, my family, cloud watching, and naps. Things I dislike are perverts, loud fangirls, and working too hard. My hobbies are shogi and other board games. My dreams for the future is to become a jonin one day, marry said Hataki, have 1 or 2 children and die someday of old age. Anko nodded at all of this. Kurenai, hearing that Naruto was taking Shikamaru out on a date, said, You next, Ino. Ino, glaring at Shikamaru, said, My name is Yamanaka Ino, and I'm a genin of this village. I am 13 years old and the things I like are Naruto-kun, my family, flowers, and my friends. Things I dislike are when people try to steal Naruto-kun away from me, perverts, and anyone who disrespects my clan. My hobbies are gardening and following Naruto-kun. My dreams for the future are becoming clan head and marrying Naruto-kun someday. Naruto, hearing this, face palmed and said, My name is Ukami Naruto. I am 13 years old and a genin of this village. My likes are Kakashi, Anko, Shikamaru, Suki, Setsuna, ramen, my family, and cookies. My dislikes are rabid fangirls, traitors, perverts, and anyone who dares threaten my precious people. My hobbies are writing songs and cooking. My dream for the future is to become the second youngest Umbu captain, make sure Suki, Shikamaru, and Setsuna reach their dreams, and kill Orochimaru for what he did to Anko. Everyone blinked hearing this. Shikamaru then blushed as Naruto had just said he was going to make sure she reached her dreams. Anko, smirking, said, Now that we're all acquainted, let's get to the test so I can test Naruto-chan. Naruto blanched hearing this. Ino, blinking, asked, What test, Anko-sensei? Kurenai, shaking her head, said, The real genin test. Normally it would be a team test, but since there is 3 of us and 3 of you, we'll just be seeing where we need to work with you guys with. As Anko just stated, she gets to test Naruto. I will test you, Ino, and Shikamaru is going to be tested by Uego. Naruto, hearing this, knew that he was a goner. Anko, I smiling, said, You're up first, Yamanaka. Ino, nodding, got up and moved across from Kurenai, who smiled and said, Come at me, with the intent to kill Ino. Ino, nodding, pulled out a kunai and charged Kurenai. She lasted all of 15 minutes. Kurenai, smiling at Ino, said, We need to work on your stamina and chakra reserves, along with some jutsu and strategy. Ino, on the ground panting, nodded and said, Okay, Kurenai-sensei. Uego, standing up, said, Your turn, Shikamaru. Shikamaru, nodding, got to her feet and moved across from Uego. Neither said nothing, but Uego vanished. With good reason, as Shikamaru's shadow had stretched across the clearing and had tried to grab Uego. Uego, appearing a few feet away, said, Very good control over your shadow. Shikamaru, smiling, said, I'm not done. Uego felt her eyes widen when the shadow stretched even further, trying to grab her. She, dashing forward, avoiding the shadow, tried to hit Shikamaru with a light punch. Her eyes widened when Shikamaru turned into an afterimage. Shikamaru, appearing in a tree, was panting as she said, I've never been so grateful for Naruto-kun pushing me so hard to increase my skill before. She then, doing a few hand signs, made her shadow split into 9 branches as she said, I've also never been so glad to be a serious kunoichi. Uego, dodging the shadows, asked, What jutsu is this? Naruto, smiling, said, It's one of the jutsu I create for her. It's called Shadow Style 9 Branches of Sin. It basically splits her shadow into 9 branches that each have their own mind, so they can attack different targets. Everyone hearing this blinked. Shikamaru, panting, said, He speaks the truth, and Naruto-kun, you told me that this jutsu didn't use a lot of chakra. Naruto, rolling his eyes, said, "No, I believe I said that you should wait until you have more chakra and then start using the jutsu, as it uses a decent amount of chakra. Even when I do it." Shikamaru, hearing this, grunted, "Troublesome blonde." Iwego, finding Shikamaru, appeared behind the girl with a kunai at her throat. She said, "Yield." Shikamaru, ending her jutsu, said, "I give in, Iwego-sensei. That damn jutsu tired me out." Iwego, smiling, said, "You did well, Shikamaru. You lasted about 30 minutes. Shikamaru, laying back in the tree, said, "I'm beat." Iwego, picking Shikamaru up, teleported back to the clearing and gently put the girl beside Ino. Anko, smirking, said, "Your turn, Naruto-chan." Naruto groaned at this, but got up and moved to the middle of the clearing. Anko, licking her lips, said, "You know the deal, Naruto-chan, come at me with the intent to kill." She then, gaining a serious look on her face, said, "No holding back either, Naruto. Really come at me with everything you got, as I need prove to the other two that you are without a doubt one of the strongest genin in the village." Naruto, hearing this, nodded and said, "All right, Anko." He then, putting his hand on the hilt of his sword, allowed his eyes to transform into the eyes of truth. He then, drawing the sword, roared. This roar unleashed his chakra that crashed down on the village like a tidal wave. Naruto was now standing there, fully transformed into his truth form. Anko, seeing this, slipped two kunai in each hand. The two of them then dashed forward. When they collided, the ground shook and a boom was heard. With each swing of the blade, Naruto left a deep scar in the earth. Ino and Shikamaru, watching this, were shocked. Iwego and Kurenai couldn't believe their eyes. Hell, the people watching in the Hokage's office couldn't believe their eyes. Naruto, jumping into the air, blurred through hand signs and said, "Fire-style mortal flame jutsu." Anko, going through her own hand signs, cried out, "Fire-style great fireball jutsu." The two flames collided and Naruto's flame quickly consumed Anko's. Naruto, coming down with his sword, was aiming for Anko's head. Anko, moving backwards, watched as the sword struck the ground. She sent snakes at Naruto. Naruto, spotting this, stuck his chest out and said, "Truth jutsu beyond the gateway jutsu." Anko watched as the tear opened up and the hands appeared and grabbed her snakes. The snakes were quickly pulled inside of the tear. Naruto, lifting up his sword, dashed forward. Anko, spotting this, cried out, "Water-style water wave jutsu." A huge wave of water came barreling towards Naruto, of course coming from the river in the clearing. Naruto, spotting this, opened his mouth and said, "Ice-style death's frozen touch jutsu." Anko felt her eyes widen when her water wave was turned into a frozen wave. Naruto then crashed through said wave and swung his sword at her. She, ducking, punched him in the chest. Naruto, letting go of his sword, went for a punch of his own. Anko, blocking this, tried to knee him. Naruto, catching her knee with his other hand, was then punched in the jaw by Anko. He, rolling backward, punched the ground and said, "Earth-style rolling boulders jutsu." Anko cursed as she was forced to jump over the large boulders that came from the ground and tried to mush her. She then looked up when Naruto appeared with his fist back in a punch. She, replacing herself with log, tried to counter with a kick in the stomach. Naruto jumped over this and went through hand signs. He cried out, "Shadow-style 9 branches of Senjutsu." Anko gained wide eyes when Naruto's shadow transformed into 9 long shadows. She, jumping, wasn't prepared for Naruto to cry out, "Shadow-style 18 branches of truth jutsu." She cursed when Naruto's 9 shadows doubled and started trying to attack her. She, tossing several flash tag kunai, smirked when the shadows were destroyed. She, going through hand signs, swiped her finger on one of her teeth and cried out, "Summoning jutsu." A huge cloud of smoke appeared. When it cleared, Anko was standing on the back of a large red snake. Naruto, spotting this, swiped one of his fingers against his own teeth and cried out, "Summoning jutsu." Anko felt her eyes widen when he said this. She nearly had an heart attack when Naruto appeared on the back of a large blood-red fox with 9 tails. The fox, smirking, said, "Oh yeah, it worked." Naruto, smirking, looked down at the terrified snake and said, "Koda, meet Kurama, my half of the 9-tailed fox." Koda the snake said, "The ing 9 tails. Screw this, I'm going home, Anko." Anko blinked when Koda did go home. Kurama, pouting at this, said, "Damn, I wanted to fight too." He then vanished in a poof of smoke. Naruto, knowing that he had enough chakra for one more jutsu while transformed, smirked and said, "Prepare for another of my ultimate jutsu, Anko." He going through hand signs cried out in the realm of dreams she awaits. Flowing changing, an illusionary queen. Soft like a mother's love, but cold like the touch of death, one look at her form and all is lost. Manipulative she controls her fate. She defines your reality. Shatter Kyoka Suijetsu. Anko felt her eyes widen when the sound of something shattering could be heard. She turning around blinked finding Naruto's sword gone. She turning back around gasped finding Naruto gone also. She then started to turn every way as other things started to fade away. She was soon lost in a sea of nothingness, and it was terrifying her. Suddenly she remembered who Naruto had a crush on. She shaking her head pushed her chakra through her body trying to break the illusion she had been placed in. She hearing shattering smiled as she had broke the illusion. She smiling at Naruto who was back in his normal form said that was a hell of a genjutsu. You forgot that I know who you have a crush on, and have been friends with her for a very long time. Naruto rolling his eyes said yeah whatever Anko. Anko walking over to him put her arm around him and said there's no doubt in my mind that you're the most powerful genin in this village. Hell you keep making jutsu like the last one, and you'll be captain of an Umbu squad in no time. Naruto smiling said thanks Anko. The two of them then walked back to the rest, who were all standing there with their jaws scraping the ground. Anko laughing said I told you Naru-chan was a force of nature. Shikamaru shaking her head laid back on the grass and said troublesome blonde. Yuego shaking her head said I wish he had a crush on me. I'd love to see the jutsu he models after me. Kurenai with a small blush on her face said that was a wonderful show of skill Naruto and Anko. Ino was now scowling as Naruto had created a jutsu after their sensei, but not her. Naruto laughing said well since we passed. Come on Shika we have a date tonight. Shikamaru standing up walked over to Naruto and leaned on him. Anko said be here at 8 tomorrow morning for team training. Naruto and Shikamaru nodding left in a lightning shushin. 2 weeks later and Naruto could be seen holding a very happy cat in his arms. Ino to the left of him was glaring at the cat in pure hate. Tai to the right of him was also glaring at the cat with hate. The reason why? Well, the cat had attacked both of their faces leaving many scratches on their faces. Naruto ignoring the killing intent coming from both girls continued to carry the cat, Tora to the mission tower. Kurenai, Anko and Yugao already there waiting for them. Reaching the tower they entered the tower, and Naruto smiling said mission complete. The cat was quickly give to its owner, and Naruto flinched when the large woman started to smother Tora. Ino and Albertine on the other hand smirked as the little demon was getting just what it deserved. Once the lady left, Sarutobi who ran the mission office now said alright teammate. I think it's about time you guys got your first C rank. Naruto nodding said correct as we've completed 68 D rank missions, half of those being catching Tora. Sarutobi chuckling reached into the C rank pile, picked one up. Reading it over he nodded and said you are to escort a film crew to the land of snow for the shooting of the new Princess Gale movie. Ino hearing this tried to contain her squeal. Naruto putting his fingers in his ears, nodded. Tai once he did this squealed along with Ino as they loved the Princess Gale movies. Sadly Sarutobi was not as lucky as Naruto and was left with swirls for eyes. Naruto removing his fingers said my bad old man. Oh well, he turning to his sensei who all looked excited asked when do we leave? Anko wrapping her arm around him said we leave after you take me out for dango, and we cuddle a little in our booth. Naruto rolling his eyes quickly wondered if dating 3 of the 5 females on his team was a good idea. He ignored when his half of Kurama howled about his granduncle being a Casanova. Ino hearing this instantly glared at Anko and said you had Naruto to yourself all day. Albertine nodding said Anko-sensei we agreed along with Suki-chan and Setsuna to share Naruto-kun. So far you've been hogging him. Naruto hearing this blinked and quickly said hold on. I never agreed to be shared by 5 women. Ino flipping her hair turned to him and said yes you did Naruto-kun when you signed that contract I gave to you. Naruto blinked hearing this and quickly pulled out his copy of the contract. He reading it over felt his eyes nearly pop out of his head spotting the part about him agreeing to be in a relationship with as many females that love him, and prove themselves to be worthy of him. He instantly asked how in Kurama's fury did I miss this. He then face-palming said, shaking his head he decided that he was going home to get his lyrical notebook and phone. Vanishing in a flurry of snow, he ignored Enko, Ino, and Albertine calling his name. Sarutobi had the biggest smile on his face hearing how Naruto was already with 5 girls, even though he didn't even know he was part of the CRE yet. Naruto arriving at the gate moments later, blinked spotting Enko, Ino, and Tai pouting. He rolling his eyes put his headphones in his ears and pressed play. He smiled as Bulls in the Bronx by Pierce the Veil played. He spotting the crew they were escorting, blinked spotting Yuki Fujike's their mission, having both Yugao and Kurenai on either side of her. He shaking his head didn't really want to know. He walking forward saluted and said Ukami. Naruto reporting for duty. Kurenai smiling said good. Naruto-kun, you are to be the personal guard of Yuki-san here. Naruto nodding walked in front of her. He bending over kissed her hand and said pleasure to meet you Princess Koyuki Kazuhana. My name is Naruto and will protect you until your truth is finally achieved. Everyone gained wide eyes hearing this, none more so than Koyuki. She looking at him asked how did you know? Naruto smiling gently at her said my eyes see the truth no matter how many lies it is buried beneath. I know not why you are afraid to go back to your home country, or why you changed your name. He then showing her the fire inside of him said but I promise you this on my life. I will make your truth a reality, and all that oppose you shall feel the might of Kurama and Ukami. Naruto. He wasn't prepared to be glomped by Ino during this. He feeling her nuzzling his face said my boyfriend is so romantic. Naruto rolling his eyes turned to Yugao who was giggling and asked can we start the mission already, before Setsuna-chan or Suki-chan or worse Sakura find out we're leaving for this mission. Enko giggling said yes let's go Naruto-kun. Team 8 then left just as Sakura showed up ready to see Naruto off. She spying them gone screamed I know baka. A week or so later and Naruto was wondering why was it that girls liked him so much. I mean yes he saved the day, and was kinda badass, but that didn't make him a girl magnet. He was wondering this because after killing Koyuki's evil corrupt uncle he had transformed Snow Country into Spring Country. She had grabbed him by his hand and lead him to her personal room. She then proceeded to make out with him until he was almost blue in the face. After that she told him that she was now one of his girlfriends. He had face-palmed hearing this, but couldn't help but think that a princess for a girlfriend would come in handy one day. That reminded him, he really wished that he hadn't shown off during all of those battles, and that he wasn't now a star in the Princess Gale movie with Koyuki. He and his team were now on their way back to the village hidden in the leaves, when suddenly Yugao said hold on change in plans team. Naruto hearing this groaned and asked what happened. Yugao smiling said Kakashi just sent for backup. It seems as he's come up against Momochi Zabuza and a band of merry killers and needs help. Naruto shaking his head asked why are we changing our plans? Enko giggling said he specifically requested our team. Naruto face palming said I'm going to kill him, and then bring him back and kill him again. Kurenai laughing said you can do that after we complete the mission. Naruto sighing said I'm taking a nap, as this ship will most likely get us to wave undetected. Tai hearing this grabbed his hand and said you're taking a nap with me Naruto-kun. He was about to say something when Ino glomped his other arm and said no Naruto-kun is taking a nap with me. Naruto could already tell where this was going. Enko pressing herself against his back said no he's taking a nap with me. Naruto really needed someone to save him. Luckily for him Kurenai said you 3 are smothering him. He will take a nap with myself or Yugao. His choice. Naruto hearing this yawned and said Yugao, as I spent time with Kurenai Haim on the way to Yuki. Yugao blinked at this. She then blushed and led Naruto to the room they were going to sleep in. She reaching the room blinked as there was only one bed. Naruto walking into the room blinked spotting this. He was about to say that she could take the bed when she said you take the bed, I'll sleep on the floor. Naruto looked at her like she had lost her head. Shaking his head he said not happening Yugao-sensei. You take the bed, I'll sleep on the floor. Yugao hearing this shook her head and said you're the one who wanted to take a nap, plus you did the most on the mission. Naruto hearing this sighed and asked how about a compromise? Yugao blinking asked what kind? Naruto said we both nap on the bed. You sleep on the side to the wall, and I'll sleep on the side to the window. Yugao blinking as it was logical, nodded and climbed onto the bed. Naruto once he was sure she was comfortable, laid down on his side of the bed and closed his eyes. He would wake up hours later to feel Yugao nuzzling his chest. He feeling his eyebrow twitch at this, looked down and was about to wake her up, when the moonlight shined on her face. Naruto, spotting her peacefully slumbering, smiled as the moonlight shined on her beauty. Unlike Ino, Albertine, Anko, or even Kurenai, Yugo's beauty was truly subtle and would go unnoticed, as most people would only see her skills. Naruto, looking down at her face, actually thanked Tsukuyomi for showing him this beautiful image. He, creating a clone, had it switch places with him. He, taking off his shirt, pulled out his secret sketchpad. Not even Kakashi knew about this habit of his. He, opening it, brushed past his pictures. He, stopping on the last one, smiled at the image of Albertine, Ino, Anko, Setsuna, and Suki all eating together at Ichiraku Ramen. He had passed by this scene going to help Mikoto with her garden. He had captured it in his mind and asked Kurama to make sure it stayed safe. So once getting in a safe place, he painted the image. He, smiling as his 5 lights, he flipped the page. Landing on an empty page, he prayed to Tsukuyomi for the moonlight. He smiled when it shined brightly through the window and illuminated Yugao and his clone, who was smirking like a bloody idiot. Naruto, ignoring this, put his headphones in his pocket and turned his phone on. He, pressing play, smiled as the songs he had Ino and Tai sing played. This one was Tai singing the song City Kids he had written. Real song is by Flyleaf. He, nodding his head to it, started to draw his slumbering sensei. He did this for at least 4 hours, not even noticing the light of day replaced the light of the moon. He, finishing the picture, laid his sketch pad down and stood up. Stretching, he decided to find out how close they were to wave. He, leaving his shirt, silently left the room and reached the deck. He, looking out over the railing, allowed his wings to form. Shooting into the chilly morning air, he breached the clouds. He, looking down, blinked as they were just outside of wave, but some thugs were keeping the boat from entering. He, shaking his head, decided to get rid of the trouble. He, swooping down, slid his hands across his face, allowing a pure white fox mask to appear on his face. He, summoning his sword, decapitated a thug before he could even blink. Naruto, moving as a blur, cut down almost all of the thugs. He, having one left, allowed the rift in his stomach to open up. He, looking at the terrified thug through the slitted eyes of the fox mask, said, "You chose to work for the wrong person. Goodbye." 2 large blood-covered snakes latched onto the man and dragged him screaming into the rift. Naruto, absorbing all of his memories, narrowed his eyes and said, "Gato, you little shit." Shaking his head, he flew back to the boat that was now surging forward. He, landing on the deck of the bridge and allowing his mask to fall, blinked when he suddenly got the memories of his clone. It had been dispelled by Anko waking Yugao up. He was about to not worry about it until he realized that his sketchpad was still in the room. He face-palmed as Kurama started to laugh as Anko had finally found his secret habit like she had promised. Shaking his head, he sat down and decided to make a ultimate jutsu after Yugao. Closing his eyes and entering a meditative stance, he allowed everything to vanish. He, opening his eyes, smiled, spotting his inner world. He, standing up, smiled at Senbon Sakura, who was tending to her sakura trees. He, turning to Sujetsu, smirked as she was playing with her koi pond. He, nodding to all of his other soul slayers, or ultimate jutsu as he told the world, smiled, spotting Kurama staring at a new door. Kurama, turning to him, deadpanned and said, "I swear to Kami, if this is another female, I'm gonna go back to my cage and stay." Naruto, laughing, said, "Not my fault, Kurama. I seem to only be able to call upon female soul slayers." He, ignoring the comment from Kurama, opened the door and blinked, finding himself standing on a very dark beach. He, looking around, wondered where his new friend was, when the beach started to get illuminated. He, looking around for the source of the light, slowly looked up and smiled, spotting a gorgeous moon hovering above the beach. He then watched as a figure appeared out of the moon. He watched as the figure slowly floated down. Once it was standing on the beach with him, he could tell that it was a female, appearing to be in her late 30s, with long flowing black hair. She had tan skin, and her figure was impossible to detect because of what she was wearing. She, looking him in the eyes, revealed her mixed-matched eyes. The right eye was blood red, like that one time he saw a blood-red moon. The other eye was silver, like the moon usually was. She, looking him in the eyes, asked, "Can you hear me?" Naruto, grabbing her hand and kissing it, said, "Of course I can hear you, my beautiful moon." The woman smiled and said, "My such a charmer? Allow me to tell you my name." Naruto, stopping her, said, "No need. Your name is Zangetsu, and the name of your younger self or Bankai is Tensa Zangetsu." Your full form is Seigo no Getsuga Tensho. A lovely moon. Zangetsu blushing said, oh my, such a sweet young man. Naruto smiling wrapped his hand around hers and said, come on and meet the others. She nodding followed him out of the door. She blinked, spotting all of the soul slayers in his inner world. She gained wide eyes, spotting the giant blood-red fox grumbling as what looked like two little girls played with him. Naruto smiling said, this is my paradise. She blinked when something said, oh my god, this is paradise. She couldn't help but giggle and say, this looks to be fun. Naruto smiling sat down with her and said, yes it is, now let's work on your summoning. In the room, Yugao and the others were looking in his sketchpad with wonder and amazement. They, finding a picture of Albertine feeding some of her clan deer, said this is Naruto's secret habit. Drawing amazing pictures. Tai smiling at the picture flipped the page and spotting a picture of Anko making a face at the third Hokage. Anko blushing said, I can't believe he remembers this. Ino flipping the page gasped and said, holy smokes. Everyone looking at the image gained wide eyes, spotting Tsunade and Shizen as they worked in the hospital to save lives. Kurenai said he really captured their images in this one. Flipping the page, it was time for Kurenai to blush as it was the drawing of her in a whirlwind of rose petals. She seemed to have this supernatural glow to her, and looking closely you could see the words Tenshiheim in each rose petal. Anko spotting this said, okay, this image makes me a little jealous and makes me want to ask you, Kurenai, when are you going to join the sisterhood? Kurenai blushing said, I planned on asking him out on a date after this mission. Ino smiling said, oh yeah? They then flipping the page blinked, spotting the picture of Naruto and Setsuna munching on cookies. The image Naruto had drawn though was Mikoto smiling as she handed Setsuna a cookie. Yugao said he really knows how to make someone feel beautiful. They kept flipping through the pictures until they came upon the one of Yugao. She blushed so bright you would think she was a light bulb. The reason why? Well, Naruto had drawn her sleeping peacefully curled up on his chest. Surrounding her sleeping form were the words, she's got all of my dreams, I've got these broken things and they always disagree. But if there's one real thing you could choose to believe, just don't lose your faith in me. She's got broken things, where her heart should be. And I keep rolling them over in my head. Make my voice brand new, I gave it all to you. And I'll never speak again. All eyes turned to her, and Tai said, I don't know if I should feel jealous that he wrote those things surrounding you. I should feel happy that he likes you. Or if I should be angry that out of all the pictures in this sketchbook yours is the only one he's in. Anko pouting said, no fair, you-chan, you're not even with him yet and in a relationship with another guy. Yet you get a picture drawn of you and get to cuddle with him. I've snuck into his bedroom during the middle of the night. Been inches from cuddling with him in his bed when he'd wake up and say, nice try, Anko-chan. Anko then pulling out the puppy dog eyes said, tell me your secret. Yugao sweat dropping said, I think he was just tired, Anko. Tai said also he knows Yugao-sensei won't try to drink his blood as he sleeps. Anko pouted at this and everyone else in the room giggled. Naruto, having finished the summoning for his new friend, opened his eyes and blinked, finding all of the females of his team surrounding him. He standing up said, I think we need to get ready. As we're in wave, and it's being watched by Gato. He's the one who most likely hired Zabuza. He then standing up popped his neck and smirked at Yugao. She blushing asked, why are you smirking at me? Naruto said, oh nothing, Yugao-sensei. I just got something awesome to show you. His eyes shifting to Anko said, I have also perfected the ultimate jutsu modeled for you, Anko. Anko hearing this gained stars in her eyes. Naruto ignoring this shook his head and said, we also need to come up with a game plan, because I don't plan on winging it or being the hero this time. He yawning said, I'm still sleepy and the next time I activate my truth form I'm gonna unleash the fox and see how the fool deals with that. Tai hearing this said, you're still sleepy, Naruto. You're talking crazy again. Naruto rolling his eyes said, sure, whatever. Kurenai pulling out a map said, wave doesn't seem too large, so maybe we can just sneak our way to Kakashi. Naruto shaking his head said, Gato has too many thugs and roadblocks set up. Plus the little shit is like a damn leech and his ing wave dry. Anko hearing this asked, then he most likely knows we're here anyway, because this boat is kinda huge. Naruto shaking his head said, no he doesn't, because I have a seal with Kyoka Sujetsu cloaking the ship. Koiki gave this damn thing to us and I'd be damned if I don't plan on using it. Yugao smiling said, then we have the element of surprise on our hands. Naruto nodding turned to Albertine and said, Tai-chan, use that lovely brain of yours and come up with a plan. Albertine blushing asked, how good are you underwater, Naruto-kun? Naruto blinking said I have some equipment sealed on me that allows me to be fully aquatic. Albertine hearing this asked how much and what. He thinking said enough for all 6 of us, and breathing mask, oxygen tanks, wetsuits and goggles. Albertine hearing this said good as I have a plan. The others hearing this looked at her. She then explained the plan and everyone quickly agreed with it. Naruto unsealing the gear and went to get changed. Once dressed he jumped overboard, along with Anko and Ino. Kurenai, Albertine and Yugao were going to stay aboard the ship and move through wave like normal. The other half of Team 8 were to swim into wave undetected and with stealth on their side take out as many of Gato's groups and businesses as possible. The only trouble that this plan could have is if there were any sharks in the water, because Ino refused to swim anywhere near a shark. Anko didn't care if any sharks were in the water, because she just killed the sharks. Naruto on the other hand said if there were sharks in the water he'd turn them in jerked shark or shark fin soup. Everyone had laughed knowing that Naruto would indeed do so. It had been 2 hours since the teams split up and Alpha Team had already taken out 4 of Gato's businesses. Right now Naruto was picking the lock to a mansion Gato owned, Anko and Ino keeping a lookout behind him. He hearing the lock click, opened the door and instantly scowled as the place smelled heavily of blood and tears. Walking in he instantly understood why. This damn place was a ing slave home. Scowling he making a hand sign branched out his chakra to see what was going on before he went any further in this place. He quickly became pissed as a large number of thugs were in this place having their way with women, children and some men. He altering his hand sign could tell that the victims had long been broken and were now used to it. He was now looking for anyone that could be saved. He found a girl no older than 7 hiding under a bed as a group of men raped her father. Scratch that, it was the little girl, her elder sister, and their mother all hiding under the bed. Naruto opening his eyes said behold the shield of Akame. Crimson in color, and strong in nature. She protects the innocent, and blessed her wielder. Come forth, Benihime. He watched as the thugs were repelled out of the room as a red barrier erupted around the 3 females, as the father was dead. Naruto once this was done slowly drew his sword and said Ino, Anko get ready to extract 3 people from this wretched place. He lifting his sword into the air summoned a lot of his chakra and unleashed Kurama's killing intent. He knowing that every single thug had frozen in place said loudly for all to hear look into the eyes of death and embrace the madness. Slip into the endless slumber and become chaos. Fear me for I am become death. Roar Kurama! And a huge explosion occurred and all of waves shook from the power. Anko and Ino both had wide eyes spotting Naruto with 9 fox tails and 2 fox ears on his head. Naruto with his eyes closed floated into the air and snapped his fingers. 9 very large and deadly swords then appeared around him and started to float. Naruto slowly opening his eyes revealed slitted blood-red eyes that sent shivers down Anko's spine. He then vanished and screams started to fill the air. Ino gulping said fear him for he has become death. Anko nodding said damn right he has. When the screaming finally stopped Naruto appeared his body coated in the blood. He dropping his transformation said the 3 women you need to extract are 3 rooms down under a bed. Both women nodding rushed to extract the 3 females, knowing that they didn't have long before someone arrived to find out what happened. Naruto walking outside slipped into the bushes and sent a prayer to so that the innocent people he had just killed would be welcomed into his aunt's arms. After the 3 women were extracted and sent to the ship by Naruto, the Team Alpha slipped back into the water and continued their mission. A thug sent by Gato and a thug sent by Zabuza arriving at the mansion entered it wondering what was going on. Entering it they both were shocked when they came across all of the dead bodies. In almost every room or hallway blood had painted the walls and corpses littered the area. They finally getting to the last room finally found the man Naruto had let live. They approaching him and noticing that he was missing both of his arms, but wasn't bleeding asked what the hell happened here. The man with fear not only shining in his eyes, but filling his soul said a demon is what happened here. Both thugs turning to look at each other turned to man, and said come on we're taking you to the boss. Kakashi sitting in the training ground he was training his team inside as Sakura was barely even training even when Setsuka had explained to the girl about the dangers of being a fangirl. He sighed could see that Kiba was training, and that was only so that the boy could be a hero he thought he was. His only normal student was Setsuka, and that went out the window when Naruto appeared. Speaking of, he wondered if Team Ith were going to arrive any time soon. He then became very alert, feeling 6 chakra signatures heading towards the clearing. He was about to pull out his Sharingan and call out to his students when he recognized one of the chakra signatures. He suddenly started to smile brightly as Team 8 was here. He, calling his students, said, "Take a break, guys, our assistance has arrived." Setsuka, flipping off of the trunk of a tree, blinked and asked what assistance. Kiba was about to ask the same question when Akamaru started to get excited and jumped down from his head. The dog, looking into the forest, dashed into it, making Kiba cry out, "Wait!" Sakura, ignoring this, asked, "What assistance, Kakashi-sensei?" Kakashi was about to answer when a voice all of them were familiar with said, "Akamaru, you really need to remember that Kibbles is your partner, not me." Kiba, with a twitching eyebrow, knew only one person who dared call him Kibbles out loud. Sakura gained hearts in her eyes as she would recognize that voice anywhere. Setsuka started to turn dark red as that voice belonged to her shared boyfriend Naruto Ukami. Sure enough, Team 8 walked into the clearing, with Naruto having Akamaru sitting on his head. Kakashi, smiling, said, "About time you guys got here. I was beginning to think that my poor little genin were going to have do this alone." Naruto, sending a potent glare at Kakashi, said, "You're really lucky you're my older brother, or I'd have refused this mission, you lazy idiot." Kakashi, still smiling, said, "Well, with a powerful little brother like you, I have to call on you for assistance." Naruto, rolling his eyes, turned to Setsuna and asked, "How are you doing, Setsuna-chan?" Setsuna, blushing, said, "I'm fine." Naruto, nodding, turned to Kiba and asked, "What about you, Kibbles?" Kiba, with an twitching eyebrows, said, "I'm doing fine, Wolfie." Naruto, hearing the friendly jibe by Kiba, turned to Sakura and asked, "What about you, Sakura?" He instantly regretted asking her this question when she glommed him and said, "I'm doing so much better now that you're here." Naruto was about to say something when Sakura was forcefully removed from his body by a scowling Albertine who said, "Keep your grubby hands off of Naruto-kun, Banshee." Sakura, scowling now, raised her fist and asked, "What did you just say, you lazy bitch?" Ino, stepping beside Tai, said, "She told you to keep your grubby hands off of Naruto-kun, Sakura." Sakura, now glaring at both girls, said, "My hands aren't grubby and I'll put them on my Naruto-kun anytime I want." Naruto, having actually walked away from what he knew was about to become a fight, looked at the tree Setsuna had been trying to climb. He, turning to look at her, said, "You're applying too much chakra to the bottom of your feet. Apply it evenly to your entire foot, and you should get this in one go." Setsuna, hearing this and ignoring Albertine, Ino and Sakura having a verbal argument, tried what Naruto had just suggested and smiled when she managed to climb all the way up the tree. She, climbing back down, hugged Naruto and said, "Thanks, Naruto-kun." Naruto, smiling, hugged her back and said, "No problem, Setsuna-hime." Setsuna then blushed brightly, realizing that Naruto had just called her princess. She, separating from him, quickly walked over to the arguing girls and grabbed both Ino and Albertine. She, pulling the two girls away, led them to another part of the forest to get caught up with her sisters. Sakura was about to follow them when Kakashi said, "Sakura, get back to the tree climbing exercise. You have the smallest chakra reserves of this entire group, and this exercise will help fix that." Sakura, groaning, turned around and started to run up and down the tree trunk, doing as her sensei had ordered. Naruto, shaking his head, said, "Fangirls are the absolute worst." Kakashi, nodding, said, "I agree completely." 2 days later, both teams were gathered in the kitchen with a map of waves spread out. They were discussing the plan Albertine and Naruto had come up with for the untied teams. Naruto, Setsuna, Kiba, and Akamaru would go with Kakashi to the bridge to face Zabuza in a day. Sakura, Ino, and Albertine would remain at Tazuna's home just in case Gato tried something. Anko, Yugao, and Kurenai were going to continue taking down Gato's businesses to start helping out Wave. Naruto was actually going to use Kyoka Sujetsu to make it look like he was Sakura, using her mastery over illusion to fool anyone until it was too late. The plans now mapped out, Naruto, looking Kakashi directly in the eyes, said, "The odds are Zabuza has someone to occupy Setsuna and Kiba with a battle, and from the info you have gathered from your battle, it will most likely be the false hunter ninja that rescued him from your clutches. My guess is that this person most likely has the Hayatan of the Yuki clan. So Kakashi, you will need to face this person, as you're the only other person in this room who has ever dealt with the Hayatan. Setsuna will assist you when needed, unless she is locked in a battle of her own. Kiba, you and Akamaru will be guarding Tazuna-san with your lives." Do not let any harm befall him and show everyone why the Inuzuka clan is such a formidable clan. Everyone nodded hearing this. But then Yugao asked, what will you be doing, Naruto-kun? Naruto, smiling that smile that made all of the females in the house feel weak in the knees, said, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with the demon of the bloody mist. I'm gonna find out who has the mightiest weapon between the two of us, the Kubikura Bocho, or my lovely moon blade, Zangetsu. Yugao, hearing this, blushed, as her name was also a reference to the moon, and logical thinking made her realize that this was his ultimate jutsu designed after her. He, still with that smile on his face, said, by the way, Yugao-sensei, Zangetsu is the jutsu designed after you. This made Yugao's face turn so red, she would make Hinata jealous, and Kushina's hair look pink. Enko, hearing this, pouted and asked, when will we ever see the ultimate jutsu you made after me? Naruto said, when someone needs to be put in excruciating pain for up to 6 hours before falling to a powerful neurotoxic venom that will make interrogating and torturing the victim so easy a baby could do it. All eyes were wide hearing this, and Enko asked, are you telling me that? Naruto, nodding, said, yes, your ultimate jutsu is the ultimate torture and interrogation device that would make even Madara Uchiha squeal like a pig. All of the ninja in the room hearing this shivered, as for something to make a badass like Madara squeal like a pig, it truly had to be painful. Tazuna, drinking from his bottle, asked, what makes all of you so sure you can win? Naruto, looking at him, said, because I am the angel of truth, justice, and mercy. Zabuza Momochi needs to realize the truth that he is no demon, but only a man. Gato needs to be brought to justice for his many atrocious acts, and by the mercy of Kami I shall liberate this country from under the oppressive thumb of Gato. He then, laying his hand flat down on the table, said, this I swear on my honor as a ninja, my headband, Kurama's furry, and my very soul. Everyone gained wide eyes when on his hand the kanji for oath appeared. Kakashi, spotting this and hearing what Naruto just said, couldn't help but feel extremely proud at the amazing little brother he had raised. Kakashi, placing his hand down on the table, said, I swear it on my honor, my headband, and my Sharingan that Gato is going down. All of the other ninjas soon followed, and Naruto, looking Tazuna and his shell-shocked family dead in the eyes, said, we solemnly swear to liberate the country of Wave from all tyranny and restore peace to its citizens. We, the shinobi and kunoichi of Konohagakure, swear on our headbands, honor, and our souls to bring peace to this country and help Tazuna-san build his bridge to peace and freedom. Everyone from Konoha quickly said, we swear. Tazuna, Tsunami, and Inari all started to cry tears hearing these strangers swear to help them. The next day the plan was put into motion as Kakashi, Setsuna, Kiba, Akamaru, Tazuna, and the disguised Naruto all headed towards the bridge. When they arrived, they were greeted to the terrible sight of all of Tazuna's workers laying on the bridge, either dead or unconscious. Kakashi, spotting this, lifted up his headband to reveal his Sharingan. Setsuna, activating hers, glared into the coming mist. Both Kiba and Akamaru were growling as they were ready for the fight they could feel coming. Tazuna was slightly nervous, but then he remembered that the pink-haired girl standing in front of him was really that boy from before. Zabuza, stepping out of the mist with Haku beside him, chuckled, spotting Kakashi and his brats. He said, you should have gave up when I gave you the chance, Hataki. Now I have to kill you. He then, snapping his fingers, smirked when a large group of men appeared in the mist. Kakashi, spotting this, shifted his eyes towards Naruto, wondering what his plan was. Naruto, actually counting how many men there was, smirked and started to blur through hand signs, shocking Zabuza. Landing on Snake, Naruto cried out, Shadow Style and Truth Style, 1,000 hands of the Shadow Walkers dragging the guilty beyond the gate jutsu. Zabuza gained wide eyes when from the pink-haired girl 1,000 blood-soaked hands appeared, and to his horror grabbed all of his men and dragged them through what looked like a pitch-black portal. Naruto, ending the jutsu, shut one of his eyes, as Zabuza's men were scum and had done a lot of terrible things. Zabuza, growling, asked, how did you that girl? Naruto, chuckling, let his illusion shatter and said, first of all, I'm not a girl. Second of all, it doesn't really matter as you're doing to die anyway. Zabuza, with his eyes narrowed, asked, who are you, brat? Naruto, slowly drawing his sword out, said, I am the truth, Momochi, and today your truth is realized. Naruto, now having his sword drawn, shut his eyes and said, once upon a midnight moon, a princess awaits her prince. Spinning, twirling elegantly in the brilliant light of the full moon. She holds the key to darkness, and she has the chains of the light. Pierce the heavens, Zangetsu. A huge explosion of chakra happened when he finished this incantation. This explosion quickly removed Zabuza's mist and replaced it with a dense fog of black and red chakra. Zabuza, on high alert, was searching for the brat that had cleared his mist, but at the same time was trying to squash the foreboding feeling in the pit of his stomach. Suddenly his instincts screamed at him to block with his sword. He doing so gained wide eyes when a huge blade clashed with the Kubikuribocho. This clash cleared the fog, and everyone gained wide eyes spotting Naruto. He was now shirtless, with a set of red prayer beads around his neck. Starting at each wrist and going over his hands were bandages that looked to have been stained with blood. He had on tattered black, white, and red hakama pants that went all the way to the bottom of his legs. On his feet black shoes could be seen. In Naruto's hands was the hilt of the very large sword that could match the Kubikuribocho in size with ease. Setsuna and Haku both had healthy blushes on their faces, spotting the 8-pack of abs Naruto had. Setsuna knew that Naruto was fit, but she had no clue he had those killer abs. Zabuza growling said, "This will be your last battle, brat." Naruto snorting said, "No, this is your last battle, no brows." Zabuza growled and jumped back and was about to create his mist, when Naruto said, "Your mist isn't going to work anymore." Zabuza, not believing Naruto, tried to create his mist and gained wide eyes when nothing happened. Naruto, sitting Zangetsu on his shoulder, said, "I just told you that was going to happen, idiot." Zabuza growling asked, "What did you do, brat?" Naruto smirking said, "Simple, really, no brows. I saturated all of wave with my chakra when I released Zangetsu from her sealed state. My heavy chakra cancels out any chakra I'm not familiar with, hence why your hidden mist jutsu is now useless and all the members of my team can fully access their chakra networks, and draw in my chakra for the chakra expensive jutsu they may have." He then, creating 2 clones, said, like for instance, Kakashi and Setsuna were now blurring through hand signs along with the 2 clones. All 4 people landing on the tiger hand sign at the same time took a deep breath, and the original Naruto said, "Fire style 4-headed fire dragon bullet jutsu." Zabuza and Haku both gained wide eyes when all 4 people shot out huge dragons made of flames that quickly combined into one massive 4-headed dragon. Zabuza, jumping back, gained wide eyes when Kakashi with his Sharingan out dashed towards the wide-eyed Haku, along with Setsuna. He was about to go help Haku, when he suddenly had to block a swing by Naruto. He growling turned to look at Naruto, who said, "Your fight is with me, no brows." Zabuza growling got the very strong feeling that he was gonna lose this fight. Back at Tazuna's home, Tsunami was washing the dishes in the kitchen of her home, with a smile on her face as the Konoha ninja had seemed to give her little boy his spark back. She was about to put her frying pan away when her door was literally kicked off out of its frame. She, turning around, gained wide eyes spotting 4 samurai, 2 she recognized from her husband's execution. The 4 sleazy-looking men spotting her said, "That's the bitch boss wanted us to collect." They took a step inside of the home, and Tsunami got a little afraid, until suddenly all 4 men stopped moving and Ino appeared holding a very sharp kunai at their throats. Albertine, stepping out of the shadows with a scowl on her face, said, "Naruto-kun was right. Gato is going to betray Zabuza." Ino, binding the 4 men, of course after removing their weapons, asked, "What do we do, Tai?" Albertine, sighing, said, "Really, I think we need to go inform Naruto-kun that he was right, but we can't leave Tsunami-san and Inari unprotected." Sakura, walking down the stairs with a scowl on her face, said, "They wouldn't be alone, I'd be here protecting them." Tai and Ino, both rolling their eyes, said, "Like we said, we can't leave Tsunami and Inari unprotected." Inari, brushing past Sakura, asked, "Why don't we just come with you? That way you keep us safe?" Ino, blinking, said, "That's actually not a bad idea." Albertine was about to say something when Enko, walking into the home, said, "We were just about to suggest the same thing." Ino, blinking, asked Enko-sensei, "Shouldn't you be dealing with Gato's businesses?" Enko, shaking her head, said, "Turns out Naruto-kun put the fear of God into Gato, and the little weasel has pulled all of his operations out of wave. My guess is that he plans on attacking the bridge and getting rid of any threats to his shady operations before starting back up." Albertine, hearing this, said it would be a good plan if Naruto-kun didn't plan on turning the man into sushi and feeding him to the sharks. Ino then asked, "What the hell are we standing around talking for, when Naruto-kun is out there kicking and taking names?" Tai, nodding, said, "Let's go." Back at the bridge, Naruto, once again clashing swords with Zabuza, could tell that this battle was wearing Zabuza out. Naruto, jumping back, shifted his eyes over to the ice dome, wondering how Setsuna and Kakashi were doing. Zabuza, spotting Naruto do this, smirked, and said they are both most likely dead. Haku is stronger than I, plus she has the Yuki bloodline. Naruto, hearing this, rolled his eyes and then sent out a pulse of chakra. His eyes narrowed when his pulse came back with only one chakra signature standing tall in the dome. He, pointing Zangetsu at the dome, sent a better pulse of chakra out, this time making sure that it could pick up everything. When it came back, he growled as both Kakashi and Setsuna were down on the ground littered with needles made of ice and steel. He, turning, could see the smirk on Zabuza's face. Shaking his head, Naruto said, "Alright, no brows. It's time I stopped playing games." He, lifting Zangetsu into the air, looked directly up at the sky. He, summoning his chakra, could feel the 13 seals he had placed on himself a week after he had been claimed appear. He, staring up at the sky, closed his eyes and said, "Prepared to take a look down the rabbit hole, Zabuza." He then, tightening his grip on the hilt of Zangetsu, said, "Fuinjutsu, first gate open." When he said this, Zabuza and the entire world gained wide eyes when the sky literally changed from daytime to night, and the full moon appeared shining in the sky. Naruto's chakra then came barreling out of him and quickly created a pillar that, to the shock of Zabuza, connected with the moon. Naruto, still holding Zangetsu up, was now cloaked in an ungodly amount of chakra and had this eerie glow to him. Naruto, slowly lowering Zangetsu down, looked at the wide-eyed Zabuza and said, "This is 7.7% of my full power that has been locked behind 13 seals or gates." He then, tossing Zangetsu into the air, vanished, and Zabuza screamed out in pain as his left arm was literally separated from the rest of his body. Naruto, appearing holding said appendage, said, "With the first gate unlocked, my speed increases tremendously, along with my strength, intelligence, chakra regeneration, and chakra density." He then, tossing Zabuza's arm over his shoulder, jumped and caught Zangetsu in mid-air. He then revealed himself to be standing on air. Naruto, looking down at Olive Wave with impassive eyes, said, "With this much of my power unlocked, I gain the ability to walk and run on air. I also gain an immense appreciation for life and the art of death." He then, starting to spin Zangetsu, said, "Plus I get the ability to manipulate the very gravitational pull of Earth." He then, vanishing, appeared in the middle of the ice dome. He, lashing out with Zangetsu, sent a huge wave of golden energy crashing into the ice mirrors, shattering them with ease. Haku, landing beside Zabuza, had wide eyes at that one attack had just destroyed her most powerful jutsu in one move. Zabuza was shitting his pants, as this boy, this kami-forsaken monster in front of him was going to kill him. Kiba, Akamaru, Tazuna, and the recently arrived Yugao, Kurenai, Anko, Ino, Albertine, Sakura, Inari, and Tsunami all had wide eyes. Naruto, tossing Zangetsu into the air, once more bent over and picked both Kakashi and Setsuna up. He, teleporting in front of Kiba, set his brother and one of his girlfriends down. He then, looking them over, swiped his hands, and Haku gained wide eyes when all of the needles were removed from the two people. This made Kakashi and Setsuna wake up. Naruto, turning around, lifted his hand up and caught Zangetsu. Naruto, sitting the lovely sword on his shoulder, said, "I am about to deliver truth to you, Momochi Zabuza." Naruto then stomped his right foot, and everyone watched as Zabuza was literally launched high into the air. Naruto, opening his eyes, said, "Your truth is death." He then shot into the air with the blade of Zangetsu glowing a bright silver. Suddenly the darkness of the night seemed to blanket the entire area, creating a pitch-black area. Suddenly the full moon shone brightly down on the floating form of Zabuza. Naruto then started to literally blur by the man, with only the glint of a sword being visible. Suddenly Naruto appeared high above the bridge, standing in the moonlight. He, crouching down, said, "Fall! Kenjutsu Lunar Apocalypse Jutsu." Everyone then gained wide eyes when slashes started to appear all over Zabuza's body. These slashes quickly started to glow with the supernatural sheen of the moon. Zabuza then exploded into a pillar of light. This not only illuminated Wave, but made everyone shut their eyes and turn away. When the light died down, everyone gasped as the only thing left of Zabuza was his headband, and that was wrapped tightly around Naruto's right hand. Naruto, slowly setting on the ground, turned, spotting Gato and an army of thugs. Naruto, dropping down to one knee, started to go through hand signs until he landed on Rabbit. He then, shutting his eyes, said, "Fire, Truth, and Shadow style 1 billion burning coffins of the Truth Jutsu." All eyes widened when the very ocean turned pitch black and started to take the forms of several coffins. The lids of these coffins then opened and flaming skeletal hands shot out of the coffins and grabbed on tightly to Gato and his little army. All eyes were glued to the scene out of some horror movie as Gato, his army of hired thugs and all of Gato's boats were dragged into the coffins kicking and screaming. When the jutsu ended, Naruto slowly standing up revealed a blood-red necklace made of prayer beads. Naruto grabbing said necklace laid it down and said over 1,000 wicked souls now lie inside of the gateway of truth, condemned to an eternity of eternal damnation for their sins. He then placing his hand on the necklace closed his eyes and said, I wish for this bridge to be completed and to forever stand as a monument of hope for the good kind people of Wave. Jaws literally started to scrape the ground when the necklace sunk into the unfinished bridge, and to the continued shock of everyone the bridge started to finish itself, until the bridge was completed. Naruto standing up said Fuinjutsu first gate close. All of his chakra then vanished just as quickly as it had appeared, and the sky returned to normal. Naruto letting Zangetsu turn to normal walked over to Kakashi and sat down. He then leaning on Kakashi passed out. All eyes were on him and Kiba asked, did all of that just really happen? Kakashi nodding said yes. Enko hearing Kakashi confirm gained the biggest smile on her face and cheered hell to the ing yeah. I'm dating a ing god. Eat that Orochimaru tea me. Sweat drops and face palms was the response to her doing this, and Kakashi couldn't help but think what in the hell was in those waffles this morning. Naruto would wake up in his mindscape and blink as it had changed. He turning his head could see Kurama standing beside him just as confused as him. He then felt the energy signature that had been ingrained with his very soul years ago. Smiling he turned around and said, hello mother. Megami appearing had a soft smile on her face as she walked over and pulled her son into a deep and warm hug. Naruto relishing in the hug from his mother hugged her back and with his eyes closed asked, not that I'm not enjoying this immensely, but what's wrong? Megami sighing said, I hate that you're so smart sometimes. She ending the hug looked him in the eyes and said, I need your help baby. Naruto quirking an eyebrow asked, what's going on mom? She taking a deep breath said, in a different dimension a very powerful demon known as Trigon is very close to taking over the world. The only thing that could stop him is his daughter, but she is paralyzed by her fear of him to stop him, even with her friends giving their all to stop him. Naruto was about to ask a question when Kurama asked, that dumb Trigon is still alive? Megami turning to him nodded and said, yes, you and Gyuki didn't kill him like you thought. He managed to survive by the skin of his teeth. Kurama hearing this snorted and said, Kid, this is why I always remind you to finish what you started. If Gyuki had let me finish what we started, then Trigon wouldn't be a problem right now. Naruto rolling his eyes turned to his mom and asked, I know that there's more mom, so what else is going on? Megami sighing said, another of your cousins is set to attack a superhero known as Superman. Your aunt wants you to attack and kill your cousin before he can cause any damage. Naruto sighing asked, are both of these threats in the same dimension? Megami nodding said yes. Naruto scratching the back of his head asked, what's my pay for this mission? Megami smiling asked, how about a few new bloodlines and a new girlfriend? Naruto quirking an eyebrow asked, what does this new girlfriend look like? Megami giggling waved her hand and the image of Black Canary appeared. Naruto whistling said, damn, that's one pretty canary. Kurama snickering at his vessel's play on words asked, what are the new bloodlines? Megami giggling at her son's play on words said, Sonic release, Speed Force release, Amazon release, Kryptonian release, Bat release, Guardian release. Naruto quirking an eyebrow asked, why do these new bloodlines sound so weak? Kurama nodding said, I agree. I mean, come on, Bat release, Amazon release, Sonic release. All of those sound lame. Megami rolling her eyes waved her hand and showed to two what the bloodlines look like and smirked when Kurama's jaw scraped the ground and Naruto gained a huge smirk on his face. Naruto turning to look at Kurama said, Bat release is so going to come in handy. Kurama shaking his head asked, forget about the Bat release. Why the hell did the Amazon release turn both of us into a female? Megami smiling at Kurama said, because all Amazons are female, silly fox. Naruto rolling his eyes asked Kurama, how powerful is this Trigon? Kurama shaking his head free from the shock said, you'll need at least 2 of the gates open, and maybe use the truth form combined with your soul slayer. Naruto hearing this blinked several times and said, okay, he must really be powerful. He turning to his mother asked, which of my cousins am I killing? Megami said, Doomsday. Naruto hearing this groaned and said, me sideways with a pink double-ended dildo. It had to be Mother ing Doomsday. Kurama, actually rubbing his temples, said, okay, so we have to very hard, very taxing battles coming up. You're going to be exhausted after both battles and need at least 3 weeks to rest up. Naruto said, 4 actually, as my soul slayer is very difficult to maintain. Megami, smiling at how they were already talking strategy, said, you have 5 minutes to wake up and prepare to leave for this mission. Oh, and your aunt, and I will be using the time-release bloodlines so that you can take care of both threats with one trip. Naruto, nodding, said, make that 5 weeks, as time release is going to drain the both of us. Kurama, scratching the side of his face, said, a 5-week nap. Damn, those females of yours are going to be worried. Naruto, sweat dropping, said, I forgot about them. Megami, giggling, vanished. Naruto, sighing, watched as his mindscape returned to normal. He spotting his soul slayer swimming circles in the only blue sky part of his mindscape, said, troublesome. Kurama, now being played with by the twin girls that represented the ultimate jutsu made after Ino, shut his eyes and said, troublesome to the 6th power. Naruto, closing his eyes, felt himself waking up. He, opening his eyes on the outside, noticed that he was in the room the males was sharing at Tazuna's. He, getting up, reached into his pack and pulled out his custom-made armor that Koki had given him after saving her. He then, pulling out the set of Umbu armor Kakashi had gotten him the day after team placements, slipped this set of armor on first. He then, slipping on the set Koki had made for him, lifted his hand to his head. He, sliding it down, made his fox mask appear on his face. He then, grabbing Abyssal Tyrant, placed it on his left shoulder. He, bending down, grabbed Zabuza's sword and placed it on his other shoulder. He could already feel the Kubikuribocho bonding with him and becoming more sentient. He, now fully prepared for his mission, pulled out several scrolls and quickly wrote down a message to his team, his girlfriends and Kakashi. Nodding, he placed the scrolls down and was about ready to go when he heard a familiar bark. Blinking several times, he turned and sweat dropped, spotting Akamaru sitting in the corner. He, having understood the bark, said, I'm going on a mission, Akamaru. Akamaru barked several more times. Naruto, giving the dog a deadpan look, asked, you do realize that you're Kiba's partner, right? Akamaru barked and growled a few times. Naruto, sighing, said, fine, you can come along. Akamaru, hearing this, wagged his tail and jumped onto Naruto's head. Naruto, rolling his eyes behind his mask, vanished in a swirl of tiny blue particles. Seconds later, Kakashi would come into the room to check on Naruto and blink, spotting him gone. He, spotting the scrolls, picked up the one with his name on it. Opening it, he read it 3 times before he shook his head and said, your first mission from your mother and aunt, and it sounds like a triple S rank one. Shaking his head, he grabbed the other scrolls and went downstairs to deliver them. Naruto and Akamaru, moving through space and time, had their eyes screwed shut, as the feelings assaulting them were intense. Hell, these feelings were so intense, Kurama inside of Naruto, along with all of the soul slayers, had their eyes shut, and the twin girls had buried their heads in Kurama's fur. When the feeling stopped, Naruto slowly opened his eyes and gained wide eyes, finding himself standing in what looked like a barren, a molten wasteland. He, looking around, could see the many people frozen in statues and the fire demons actually roaming around. He, shaking his head, cracked his knuckles and said, I've got my work cut out for me. He then, drawing Abyssal Tyrant in her regular form, blurred forward and instantly started taking down fire demons. Akamaru, opening his eyes during this, growled and jumped into the air. Akamaru, while in the air, started to transform until he was a huge 3-headed black dog with menacing glowing eyes the same color as Naruto's truth form. This beast instantly started to attack the demons, chomping down on them like they were snacks. Naruto, slashing through a demon, shifted his eyes to the right. He could see green light flashing in the sky along with blue flashes. He, jumping into the air, focused his attention on this area. He could now see that the green flashes of light was a pink-haired, orange-skinned girl wearing a purple sleeveless top, purple skirt and purple boots, fighting herself. He could also see a green bear fighting another green bear and 2 half-human, half-robot teenage boys fighting each other. His eyes then focused on the huge figure sitting on a T like it was thrown. Naruto, hearing Kurama growl, instantly knew that this was Trigon. Landing on Akamaru, he looked around at the fire demons who were focusing on Akamaru now. Naruto, lifting Abyssal Tyrant high into the air, asked, are you ready for a power boost? Akamaru, barking and growling, gave him his answer. Naruto, nodding, said, Fuinjutsu first gate open. Like in wave, Naruto's power exploded around him and Akamaru, wiping out the fire demons and attracting all attention to the two of them. Naruto, holding a much deadlier version of Abyssal Tyrant, said Fuinjutsu's second gate open. Even more energy exploded from his body, and this time the lava that had been the ocean literally turned into ice, while clouds covered the sky, which turned from red to pitch black. When the smoke cleared from Naruto and Akamaru, the two had gone through a drastic change. Naruto's black hair was now silver, and no longer was it spiky. It did have ice crystals coating it. Naruto was skinnier, and the fox mask had vanished, as now poking from Naruto's forehead thick ivory horns could be seen. Akamaru was now the size of a tailed beast, with 9 snarling, growling heads. He was also coated in ice crystals, with his paws actually having layers of ice on them resembling armor. Both of them were coated in a godly amount of chakra, and everyone could feel it. Naruto, looking at the sky, asked, "How does this feel so far, Akamaru?" Akamaru roared to answer Naruto. He, nodding, said, "Hold on, we're not done." He then roared himself and activated truth form, giving he and Akamaru an even larger aura of power. Akamaru actually transformed again, gaining huge wings that, like Naruto, had ethereal blue flames. His tail also transformed into the head of a black mamba. The final change to occur to Akamaru was that for the 6 of the 9 heads to have their mouths zipped closed, as something black and powerful could be seen glowing in their mouths. Naruto, with his eyes closed, asked, "How do you feel now?" Akamaru, roaring with his 3 heads, answered Naruto's question. Naruto, nodding, said, "Final step." He, pointing Abyssal Tyrant at himself, said, "Behold the ultimate truth. Bring the darkness down upon the foolish. Swim in the blue skies and relish your rule. Know not the trials and tribulations of the guilty and damned. I unbind you, O ruler of the sky. I beseech you, O guardian of the sea. Grasp all that threatens you and find the sky under the sea maelstrom." Akamaru howled as a huge pillar of energy cloaked the both of them. When the pillar vanished, Naruto no longer looked like a human being. No, now he looked like the perfect fusion of a dragon and the Shinigami. He had a dragon's face, with the horns of the Shinigami. He had the long purple kimono the Shinigami was often seen in, but it was worn and tattered, and 2 large golden wings could be seen behind him. His feet were visible and had 6 toes topped off with very sharp claws. Akamaru was now literally glowing with a golden aura of power. He also had 3 eyes on each of his heads, with the new eye being the golden the Shinigami were known for. Naruto, roaring, vanished, and the next thing Beast Boy knew, his evil clone was literally pulled into a black gate, kicking and screaming. Cyborg gained wide eyes when his evil clone was chomped down on by one of Akamaru's heads, one with the zippers on the mouth. Starfire watched as her evil clone was turned into a skeleton, a burnt skeleton at that. Trigon, standing up, wondered who these 2 new people were. Naruto, appearing floating inches in front of Trigon, opened his mouth and a very primal, yet hollow voice said, "Trigon, the destroyer of universes. I am truth, justice, and mercy. My name is Ukami Naruto, and I am the living embodiment of truth, justice, love, and chaos. I am the only archangel of death, and a warrant for your soul has been issued." Trigon, hearing this, snorted and said, "I am the great demon Trigon. Nothing can kill me." Naruto, shaking his head, said, "Foolish Akuma." He then vanished, and the next thing the Titans knew, Trigon was flying through the air, slashed, and bite marks littering his body. Trigon, getting up, wiped the blood from his mouth and growled. He, standing to his feet, roared and summoned more fire demons. His eyes widened when said demons were pulled into a pitch-black gate by blood-covered hands. Trigon, actually recognizing said gate, was shocked and terrified. That gate was the gate. It was the only way to discover the truth, and no mortal being should ever be able to summon that. He then quickly realized how much trouble he was in. Before he could even come up with a plan to escape, Naruto appeared and said, "Ice, shadow, truth, and earth-style combination jutsu, icy grip of death, pulling you into the gateway of truth jutsu." Trigon and everyone else gained wide eyes when from the ice Trigon was standing on 2 gigantic hands made of shadows. The ice, some ice-cold rock and caked in blood, latched onto Trigon and started to literally drag him into the tear that Naruto had on his stomach. Trigon, roaring and struggling to break free, reached out to grab the Titan's Tower or one of the Teen Titans, but Akamaru, appearing, opened all 9 of his mouths and unleashed 9 dark purple beams of pure power. These beams hit Trigon and launched him directly into the tear. Trigon, almost completely in the abyss, screamed out, "And no, I cannot be killed. I'm the great Trigon," then dragged into the abyss, as the world transformed back to normal. Naruto and Akamaru, spotting this, both roared as they were swallowed up by time particles and a rift. Robin, appearing with Raven, blinked and asked what the hell happened to Trigon. Beast Boy with wide eyes said, "Dude, you totally missed it." Raven, looking at Starfire, asked, "Missed what?" Cyborg said, "This dude shows up out of nowhere, and not only defeats those nasty fire demons, but then does this awesome move and drags your dad into this black tear on his stomach. Oh, and the dude was putting out enough power that he froze the molten lava, and he was on this huge 9-headed midnight black dog that had zippers on the mouths of 6 of its heads and had like 27 eyes." Robin and Raven both looked at Cyborg. Starfire said, "Friend, Cyborg forgot to mention that the dude looked like a dragon and was dressed in a very worn-out plum purple kimono." Raven, hearing the part about purple kimono, gained wide eyes and, summoning a book, opened a page to show the Shinigami and asked, "Was this the kimono he had on?" All 3 teens, nodding, said yes, but it was more ragged. Raven, hearing this, gasped and said, "A Shinigami took down my father." Cyborg, remembering what Naruto had said he said his name was Naruto Ukami, and that he was the living embodiment of truth, justice, love, and chaos, and that he was the sole archangel of death. Raven, hearing this, gained wide eyes and said, "The child of a Shinigami?" Naruto, having dropped his Soul Slayer, once again had his eyes shut tight, along with Akamaru, who was back to having only 2 eyes on each head and not glowing golden. When the intense feeling vanished, Naruto opened his eyes just in time to spot Doomsday charging towards Superman. Naruto, cursing, used his pure speed and appeared in front of his cousin's attack. Catching the punch, he grunted, feeling the power behind it. Naruto, spotting the number of people around him, said, "Akamaru, get these people back." Akamaru, barking, grabbed the people, including Black Canary, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, and jumped back. Naruto, feeling his cousin about to attack with the other fish, caught this punch also, allowing Akamaru to get the rest of the people back. Once sure everyone was far back, he shoved Doomsday back and said, "All right, idiot. I'll give you one chance to give up, or I'll slaughter you right now." Doomsday, snarling, said, "Superman must die." Naruto, rolling his eyes, said, "So be it. Don't say I didn't warn you." Naruto, jumping into the air, knowing that his seals were still open, lifted Abyssal Tyrant high into the air. He, looking at the blue sky, said, "Walking down the path few ever travel. You embrace whatever life throws your way with a smile on your face. Your temper is as great as your medical skills. With a flick of your fingers you can shatter bones and break bodies. Your will of fire burns brightly, even with you far away from the land of fire. Burn like fire, Shizen. Crush all that pisses you off, Tsunade." When he said this, a gigantic aura of power encased him. When the aura vanished, Naruto was standing in the air with 4 arms. In the 2 right hands a huge sword could be seen, with the blade being red, yellow, and orange like the color of fire. The other 2 hands were holding a huge sword that had a earthly brown and forest green blade. Naruto, then slowly floating down to the ground, looked Doomsday directly in the eyes and said, "Today you die, cousin, and I complete the mission given to me by mother and aunt." Doomsday, hearing this, roared and said, "Superman must die." Naruto, snorting, dashed forward, knowing that he was gonna have to go all out from the start to actually kill Doomsday. This meant full speed and full strength. He, sliding past a punch from Doomsday, slashed the alien weapon across the arm, making Doomsday scream out in pain. Naruto, jumping over a punch, kicked Doomsday in the face, and then coming down slashed him across the back. Doomsday, feeling the burning properties of Naruto's right sword, swung and actually managed to hit Naruto, sending him back. Naruto, shaking his head and knowing that Kurama was already healing him, put his 2 swords in AX pattern. He, channeling chakra, said, "Kenjutsu X Scissor." He then slashed down with both swords, creating a huge green and red X that hit Doomsday directly on the chest. Doomsday, screaming in agony, looked down to find an actual X on his chest. He, looking up and roaring, charged towards Naruto, who dashed forward to engage his foolish cousin in battle. The people Akamaru had moved back all had wide eyes, spotting Naruto actually engaging Doomsday in battle. Superman, shaking his head, turned to his fellow heroes and said, "We have to help him." Wonder Woman, nodding, said, "Right." The heroes were about to go help Naruto when Akamaru growled very loudly. Batman, blinking, asked, "What do you mean? This is a mission only he can do?" All eyes turned to him, wondering who he was talking to when Akamaru barked several times. Batman, gaining wide eyes, said this is a mission given to him by his mother, an aunt who are both the goddess of life and death. Akamaru, nodding all 9 of his heads, watched as Naruto sliced clean through Doomsday's arm and was rewarded by a powerful punch to the stomach. Superman, looking at Batman, asked, "Who are you talking to?" Batman, pointing at Akamaru, said, "I'm talking to that dog." All eyes looked at him, wondering if he realized what he had just said. They all blinked when something started beeping. Batman, knowing what was beeping, reached into his utility belt and pulled out the communicator. He, opening it, blinked, spotting Robin and the Teen Titans instead of Martian Manhunter. He was about to ask what he needed when Robin said, "Batman, that guy, the one who is facing Doomsday, is the same person who killed Trigon a few months ago." Batman wasn't the only one to hear this, and all eyes widened as the death of Trigon had been broadcasted across the world, as the Teen Titans had been looking for the one who had defeated the world-destroying demon. Akamaru, hearing this, barked several times, and Batman, looking at the huge 9-headed dog, asked, "So you're telling me that Trigon was the first half of the mission, and that Doomsday is the second half?" Akamaru, nodding once more, barked when Doomsday started to wail on Naruto. Superman, spotting this, said, "This is silly, we need to go help him." Akamaru, turning 6 of his 9 heads on the hero, growled. Batman said, "Akamaru said if you try to go near that battle, he'll be forced to attack." Superman, blinking, asked, "Why don't you want us to go help your master?" Akamaru barked several times, and Batman said, "He says that his master is about to destroy Doomsday in one move, and if you went over there you'd be caught up in said move and die. He also says shut up and watch." Everyone did indeed shut up and turned to the battle between Naruto and Doomsday. Naruto, having gathered enough power, closed his eyes and said, "It's over." Overture. He then unleashed twice the amount of power Doomsday had been hitting him with in 2 slashes. Doomsday, being directly hit by said attack, never stood a chance, as he literally dissolved into nothing from the pure unrestrained power behind the attack. Naruto, snorting, dropped his transformation and put the normal abyssal tyrant on his shoulder. He, closing his eyes, then closed both gates, making Akamaru return to the form of a huge 3-headed black dog. Naruto, yawning, could already feel how tired he was, and if he wasn't mistaken could hear Kurama stomping a mudhole in Trigon. He, spotting Akamaru, used a lightning Shushin to appear standing beside the dog. Akamaru, spotting this, transformed back to the small white dog and landed on Naruto's head. Naruto, yawning once more, said, "S rank mission complete, without any side effects. Pay up, mother." Everyone besides Akamaru blinked, wondering who he was talking to, when Megami literally appeared in front of him along with a woman that looked almost identical to Megami except she had red hair. Both females had huge proud smiles on their faces, and Megami, hugging her sleepy son, said, "Good job, Sochi-kun." Naruto, having a very hard time staying awake, asked, "My payment?" Kion, giggling, said, "Already done. I even add a demon release, doom release, and starbolt release." Naruto, hearing this, closed his eyes and leaned into Megami's body, said, "Cool." Megami, smiling when Naruto fell asleep, said, "Sleep easy, my precious baby boy." Naruto, now snoring in her arms, was asleep along with Kurama, all of the Soul Slayers, and Akamaru. Kion, giggling, said, "He's so adorable." Megami, smiling, nuzzled her baby and said, "Yes, he is." Kion, turning to the wide-eyed heroes and world, waved and said, "Hello, my name is Kion Ukami, and the boy who defeated not only Trigon, but Doomsday is my nephew. Most people know me as Kami, with my sister being the one true goddess of death. He did these 2 things as a mission from us. He also saved Superman's life." Megami, still nuzzling Naruto, said, "He's from a different dimension, so need to worry about him." Kion, looking at Canary Eye, smiled and asked, "How would you feel about being his girlfriend, Laurel Lance?" Canary, gained wide eyes, asked, "Why exactly would I do that?" Kion, still smiling, said, "Part of his payment is something called a bloodline, much like the superpower here. It's called Sonic Release, and I'm sure you can guess what it involves." Canary, gaining wide eyes, said, "My canary cry." Kion, nodding, turned to look at the camera and asked Raven and Starfire, "The same offer extends to you?" Raven, hearing this, blinked a few times, looked at Beast Boy for a few seconds and said, "I accept." Starfire, looking towards Robin, who still hadn't asked her out, said, "I too accept." Canary, closing her eyes, said, "Count me in." Kion, smiling, said, "Excellent." Megami, smiling, said, "Time to leave then." The 6 people and 1 dog then vanished in the familiar burst of time particles. Thanks for listening to my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment below your favorite part. Sayonara, see you in the next video.